In a world shrouded in yellow dust and plagued by monstrous demons, Maru, an ordinary young man, discovers an incredible power within himself. After an unexpected encounter with a demon, he gains the extraordinary ability to devour monsters and absorb their abilities. Maru transforms from a struggling underdog into the devil itself. As he faces relentless demonic forces head-on, his newfound powers grow stronger with each monster he conquers. So, our story begins with the land which was covered in a strange golden dust. A group of young people set out for a picnic. Unaware of the danger, they entered a restricted area marked as unsafe. Suddenly, gold dust appeared, an ominous force that began taking lives, one after another. Without any special powers, there was no chance of survival. The last survivor stood frozen, looking at the lifeless bodies of his friends. Fear consumed him, leaving him trembling. In front of him emerged a giant black shadow, holding a blood-covered sword. Shaking with terror, he stammered, "Save me!" But the shadow didn't stop. It grabbed his leg and dragged him away. His desperate screams echoed, his nails scraping the ground as he tried to resist. A long trail of blood marked his struggle, but he couldn't escape his dreadful fate. Later, a group of people wearing yellow uniforms arrived at the scene. They surveyed the aftermath in shock. One of them shook his head and sighed. Why would they ignore the warnings and come here? A short-haired girl added with frustration, "Another victim. Let's report it." Meanwhile, a long-haired girl studied the ground closely. "This was caused by something incredibly strong," she said firmly. Suddenly, yellow dust appeared in the air. Without hesitation, she pulled out a dagger, cutting her hand to release blood. A strange energy surrounded her injured arm, and it became a sword as she prepared to face the threat. A voice shouted, "Chief Kongit is coming!" In the distance, a dark shadow approached, growing larger with every step. The long-mailed girl stood her ground, ready for the confrontation. In Seoul City, on the 9th floor of a tall building, job applicants waited nervously for their turn. Among them was Maru, a 29-year-old man struggling with anxiety. In the bathroom, he paced back and forth, muttering, "I can't do this. I'm so nervous." He splashed water on his face, but it didn't help. Outside, a bird chirped on a branch, and Maru felt like it was mocking him. Frustrated, he sighed and tried to steady himself. Back in the waiting room, a news report aired about campers who had mysteriously gone missing in Ganghwa district. Maru ignored it, focusing instead on his interview. For 5 years, he had tried and failed to pass the civil service exam. This was his 5th attempt, and he was determined to succeed. When the secretary called his name, Maru, contestant number 35, he stood up abruptly, startling those around him, and nervously walked into the interview room. A stern-looking interviewer greeted him and asked, "Why did you apply for this job?" Maru answered, "To serve society as a civil servant," though deep inside he thought about the stability and steady income the job would provide. The interviewer asked, "What would you do if your superior was being unfair?" Maru replied, "I'd address the problem directly and help find a solution." But in his mind, he thought, it's better to stay quiet and avoid trouble. When asked about his relationships, Maru nervously shared awkward details about his past, leaving the interviewer puzzled. Finally, the interviewer asked, "What's the hardest thing you've faced, and how did you deal with it?" Maru froze as memories of a terrifying childhood event surfaced. He remembered a demon with countless staring eyes, a creature that had killed many people. Overwhelmed by fear, Maru collapsed. The interviewer rushed to help, shaking him and calling his name, but Maru couldn't respond. His 5th attempt at the civil service exam had ended in failure. The scene shifts to the Gu-won boarding house, a small, cheap hostel often used by students. Inside one of the rooms, Maru, the male lead, is lying face down on his pillow, crying in frustration. "I probably failed the interview," he mutters. "How am I supposed to live in this society? No friends, no job, no girlfriend. Haha, what a joke." Suddenly, there's a loud banging on the door. Startled, Maru jumps up and rushes to open it. Standing there is his mother, a strong, rough, and muscular woman. She raises her voice. "Why didn't you answer your phone?" Maru, scared and confused, stammers, "What's wrong, Mom? What should I do if you don't leave now?" Ignoring his panic, she thrusts a bag of food into his hands. "I came to bring you food," she says. "We're out of groceries at home, so I'm leaving now." Hearing the word food, Maru's eyes light up. "Mom, is it meat?" he asks eagerly, but his excitement is crushed when she replies, "No, it's just kimchi and beans. There's no meat." Disappointed, Maru sighs. "Well, I guess my stomach will have to make do." As she looks around the room, her expression turns to disgust. The place is a mess. Trash everywhere, with empty noodle cups, beer cans, and soda bottles scattered all over. She starts cleaning pulling up, muttering, "Oh my son, how can you live like this? Your room looks like a garbage dump." Maru protests weakly, "Mom, just leave it for now, I'll clean it later." But she ignores him and suddenly asks, "How did the interview go?" Embarrassed, Maru lowers his head, avoiding her gaze. He thinks to himself, "Don't tell her I vomited in front of the interviewer. Don't say it." His silence says it all. His mother sighs, understanding the outcome. Without warning, she raises her rough hand and slaps him on the butt. "Next time, do better. Don't get discouraged. Be strong," she scolds. Maru yelps in pain but doesn't resist. Afterward, she places an envelope in front of him. "Here's some pocket money," she says. "Take it." Overwhelmed with shame, Maru's eyes fill with tears. He tries to refuse, saying, "I don't need it, Mom. I'll work part-time and earn my own money." But his mother, indignant, flexes her muscles, causing her shirt to tear slightly. "Take it for your dignity," she yells. Terrified, Maru quickly grabs the envelope. Yes, thank you, Mom," he says. As she prepares to leave, she pauses thoughtfully and says, "Maru, I went to a fortune teller. They said your failure isn't because of ADHD or panic disorder. It's because of your father." Maru looks confused. "What do you mean?" he asks. She explains, "Your father, who disappeared 20 years ago, died on a mountain we used to visit. His restless soul is blocking your career path. The fortune teller said you need to go to that mountain, pour wine, and soothe his spirit. Only then will you succeed." The scene changes to a port. The air is fresh and cool as Maru arrives after a long trip. Stretching his arms, he sighs, "How many years has it been since I came here? I really didn't want to return to this place." Looking at the mountain ahead, he remembers his mother's instructions. She had told him to pour wine and pray to his father's spirit, to lift the curse on his career. Determined, Maru begins climbing the mountain. Halfway up, he spots an old house. "Finally," he exclaims, rushing toward it. Inside, the house is empty and abandoned. Dust covers everything, and it's clear no one has been here for years. As Maru steps inside, memories of his childhood flood back. He imagines himself as a boy, running into the house and calling out, "Dad, I'm hungry!" But the vision fades, leaving him alone in the empty room. Shaking off the memories, Maru takes out a bottle of wine from his bag. He pours it into a cup and splashes it around, muttering, "Dad, I hope you're living well wherever you are. Please let me get a job for Mom, who raised me all alone." Suddenly, a strange golden dust appears behind him. Maru notices it and mutters, "What's this? Gold dust? Or something blown down from the mountain?" But a sense of dread washes over him. Something bad is about to happen, he thinks, and starts running. As he runs, he hears a soft voice behind him, repeating his words, "Safety first." Confused, Maru glances back and sees the golden dust growing thicker. From it emerges a black shadow, followed by a demon with a round belly and a bamboo stick. The demon grins and repeats, "Safety first." Maru rubs his eyes, thinking it's a hallucination, but the demon moves closer, its presence terrifying. Panicking, Maru tries to run, but the demon strikes him with the bamboo stick, piercing his stomach. Blood splatters as Maru collapses in pain. Clutching his stomach, Maru thinks, "Am I really going to die like this? After all my struggles, this is how it ends?" But then, he remembers his mother's love and determination. Gritting his teeth, he forces himself to stand. "I can't die here," he says. The demon, grinning wickedly, opens its giant mouth, ready to devour him, but something inside Maru snaps. An evil power awakens within him, and he bites back, attacking the demon. Blood sprays everywhere as Maru devours the demon, his hidden strength unleashed. As he collapses, Maru sees visions of countless corpses in a ghostly world where only the strong survive. In his dreamlike state, he wonders, "Am I dead? Why does my mouth taste so strange?" Maru's eyelids fluttered open, his vision hazy and his head spinning. Slowly, the world around him came into focus, and before him were two unfamiliar faces. They stared at him intently, their expressions a mix of surprise and unease. Panic gripped Maru as he sat up suddenly, his hands clutching his chest. "Am I alive or dead?" he murmured. Glancing around, he asked, "Where are the monsters? What happened to the sandstorm?" The man in front of him stiffened, clearly startled by Maru's words. His voice was sharp as he stepped closer, urgently demanding, "What did you just say? Tell me again, what did you see?" Maru hesitated, his mind racing as he tried to piece together the fragments of his memory. Slowly, he recalled, "There was a sandstorm. It came out of nowhere. Then, monsters. They attacked me. One of them stabbed me in the stomach. I thought I was gonna die." The two strangers exchanged uneasy glances, their voices dropping to a whisper as they moved a few steps away. "Did you hear the alarm yesterday?" the man murmured to his companion. "There was this strange, ghostly noise, and then it stopped. I thought it was just a system glitch." The woman, skeptical, shook her head. "Even if he has demon blood, it's impossible for him to use its power right away. Something doesn't add up here. The man nodded thoughtfully before turning back to Maru. Do you remember anything else about yesterday? Still disoriented, Maru instinctively reached for his pocket, pulling out his phone. His eyes widened in shock as he saw the time. It's 1:30, he exclaimed. Have I been unconscious for a whole day? He clutched his head, his voice trembling. I don't understand. I was attacked by monsters, and now this? The strangers exchanged another glance, their expressions unreadable. If he survived a demon attack, he must have some kind of power, the woman muttered. But does he even realize what's happened to him? The man countered. He placed a hand on Maru's shoulder and offered a small, reassuring smile. You've shown up at the perfect time. We're recruiting new participants. Come with us. It'll all make sense soon. But first, let's get you some proper clothes. Those are completely shredded. Still confused, Maru followed them. They led him into a bustling city that seemed unlike anything he'd ever seen. Banners were draped across the streets proclaiming orientation for new employees, special government servants. Maru's confusion only deepened as he looked around. People moved with purpose, their expressions solemn and focused. What the heck is going on? Maru thought to himself, his eyes darting around nervously. Why does everyone here look so strange? Before he could voice his concerns, a woman stepped onto a podium in the center of the crowd. She exuded authority, her presence commanding immediate attention. Welcome everyone, she announced, her voice calm yet firm. I am Yuong-un, Director of Headquarters in Seoul. Congratulations to all of you on joining the Ministry of Environment. Maru's hand shot up. Sorry, there must be some mistake, he called out hesitantly. I didn't apply for this. Young-un's gaze was icy as she replied, There is no mistake. You were specially selected to join our ranks. Congratulations on your appointment. Maru was stunned into silence as she continued. As special government officials, your primary duty is to protect human lives. The details of our work are confidential. You are not to discuss this with your family, your friends, or anyone else. Violating these principles will result in severe punishment. Maru's mind raced. Protect human lives? Confidentiality? What is this, some kind of secret organization? Yuang-un's next words shocked him even more. All of you here have gained demonic powers. When demon blood mixes with human bodies, there is a rare chance that it creates remarkable abilities. Each of you has been chosen for the potential you now possess. She gestured to a tall man in the crowd. Sun Wu, for example, has inherited the power of a seventh-order demon. Impressive. Sun Wu bowed slightly, a confident smile on his face. Yuang-un then turned her gaze to Maru. And Maru, you have the power of a first-class demon. What is your ability? Maru froze. His mind was blank, and all he could do was scratch his head awkwardly. I don't know, he admitted, a sheepish smile on his face. His honesty drew laughter from Sun Wu, whose voice rang out across the room. Embarrassed and furious, Maru's face turned red. He's laughing at me? Maru thought angrily. He thinks I'm weak because I only have first-class power? Before he could dwell further on his frustration, a loud alarm blared through the facility. The recruits looked around in confusion and fear, but Yuang-un appeared almost excited. Perfect timing, she declared. A demon has appeared. Let's move out. The group was led deep into a dense forest, their breaths heavy as they hurried to keep up with Yuang-un's brisk pace. At last they reached a clearing where a massive demon lay motionless, a knife embedded in its skull. This is a level 1 demon, Yuang-un explained, gesturing to the creature. It's the weakest of its kind and has been subdued by Captain Kang. However, it's perfect for training. Now, show me what you can do. Maru's chest tightened as panic set in. Fight? Is she insane? He muttered. His breathing grew ragged and his heart pounded as he tried to process the situation. How am I supposed to fight this thing? I don't even know what's happening to me. His chest ached, and a strange hunger began to consume him. The sensation was overwhelming, and he clutched at his chest, his vision blurring. In his mind, he saw a monstrous figure, a creature with sharp claws and ferocious eyes, slowly approaching him. The vision was vivid and terrifying. The creature grinned wickedly, its teeth gleaming as it reached out toward him. Maru's body trembled uncontrollably, and he felt drool drip from the corner of his mouth. Eat! I need to eat! Suddenly, someone poked him, catching his attention. Zanu asked if he was laughing because he was scared. In response, he said no and explained that he was just a bit hungry. Zanu thought about what he had said and found him pathetic. He stated that they were all worthless. Meanwhile, Maru wondered what that meant, as he was very hungry. Furthermore, young Yun called for everyone's attention. Before they tried to use their abilities, she explained the basics. She stated that the golden dust around them was produced by demons, and that the stronger stronger the demon, the denser the dust. But that's not all, she added as she brought out a knife and sliced her palm. This action frightened the recruits and made them feel uneasy. Moreover, she explained that when they were in the dust, their wounds would heal. However, if they received a fatal wound, they could really die, so she urged them to be careful. She further explained that they could only use their powers when they were within the dust emitted by a demon. Once the dust disappeared, they would become just like ordinary people. Meanwhile, Xanu wondered how long she would continue with such useless information in front of the demon. He thought that what was truly important was knowing how to activate their powers, so he began to wonder what he could do. Consequently, he bit his lip, causing it to bleed, and the golden dust seeped into the wound. As the dust entered his bloodstream, his heart started to beat like crazy, and he felt a surge of power flowing through his veins. He realized that it worked. If he wounded himself and let the golden dust enter his bloodstream, his power would activate. Without hesitation, he put on gloves and broke his thumb to trigger his ability. However, the demon suddenly awakened, easily alarming Captain Kang, who quickly told everyone to be careful. The golden dust emanating from the demon was becoming stronger, looming over them. As it emerged, it screamed in terror and thumped the ground, causing a tremendous force that the recruits felt intensely. Meanwhile, Captain Kang was about to intervene, but Young Yun stopped her, telling her to wait and not to interfere. Captain Kang argued that it was too much for the newbies, but Young Yun reasoned that if they couldn't even handle a monster at that level, they would simply die in the field. Suddenly, a smell caught the demon's attention. It was drawn to Hanmaru. Frightened, Hanmaru asked why it was looking at him. In response, the demon released a weapon from its hand and attacked Hanmaru, striking his shoulder. Captain Kang saw this and felt uneasy. Meanwhile, Hanmaru screamed in pain as he fell to the ground. He clutched his injured shoulder, trembling. Trying to stand up, he wondered why all of this was happening so suddenly. The monster leapt toward him and confronted him. Hanmaru stared at the monster in fear, unsure of what to do as it continued to stare. Then the monster tried to reach out to him, but something else emerged from the ground. Two centipedes suddenly enveloped the monster, constricting its neck and making it hard to move. They had been summoned by a centipede demon ability user. Shortly thereafter, a woman leaped forward to help kill the demon. She attacked it quickly from behind. She was a tiger demon ability user. As the demon's head was severed, it screamed in pain. They thought they had defeated it and won. However, they were soon surprised when golden dust began to cover the demon. The dust regenerated the demon's flesh, and in an instant, its wounds healed. They could not believe that its injuries had already mended. Moreover, the demon gripped the centipede's body and pulled it, catching a man by surprise. As he was connected with the centipede, it forcefully swayed the demon, which in turn swayed the man and threw him toward the woman. Suddenly, the demon grabbed the man by the neck. The man trembled in pain and cried out that it hurt. To his surprise, the demon's mouth opened wide as it prepared to devour him, and he begged to be saved. Suddenly, the demon's neck snapped, and it released its grip on the man. Xanu then stated to the demon that if it thought he would let it go that far, it was mistaken. Meanwhile, the demon's anger flared, and its attention shifted to Xanu, planning to attack him. But Xanu intervened, removing his hands and grabbing his own wrist. He twisted it, commanding the demon to die instantly. Its head broke away from its body, and finally the demon fell to the ground. Xanu stepped on it and realized it was dead. Had he cut its throat to stop it from emitting dust? Moreover, he thought it was a shame, as it had been a good chance to try different things. Suddenly, Captain Kang called his attention. She claimed that he had broken her knife to awaken the demon and accused him of putting others at risk. All of a sudden, he denied it and asked if she had any proof that he broke the knife. She then held his hand and asked if she should try breaking his finger again to see if her sword would break. Suddenly, Young Yun started clapping and complimented him, saying that for a first-timer he had handled it well. But she then noticed something. She asked if someone had gone missing. Maru was running hastily, trying to escape from the area. He could not believe that he had suddenly become a special civil servant and was immediately ordered to eliminate the demon, an order he couldn't follow. Believing that running was the only way to live, he thought better of staying. Suddenly, he halted and looked up, wondering what was happening. On the other hand, Young Yun thought that Hanmaru was not qualified to be a special civil servant. Meanwhile, Officer Kang recalled the earlier events and wondered if it had only been her imagination that the monster had targeted the newbie. Then Young Yun asked Officer Kang to find the newbie. Captain Kang then remarked, "But isn't it strange?" She noted that although the monster was dead, the golden dust still remained, prompting Young Yun to ponder the mystery further. Meanwhile, Hanmaru wondered why there was a gate here. He saw that it was emitting a large amount of golden dust. To his surprise, a monster suddenly emerged from the gate. He quickly hid behind some bushes and covered his mouth. He thought that now that he had finally escaped, why must he face yet another threat? Shortly, he looked back at the gate, wondering if it had vanished. He assumed it had left, but little did he know that a demon was already waiting for him. Suddenly, another individual from the specialized civil service contacted them. She reached out to Officer Kang Chana, and Captain Kang immediately inquired about the situation. Yisak informed them that the officers had called. Young Yun was surprised to learn that demon never appeared in the same area at the same time. Meanwhile, Captain Kang asked where it had appeared. Maru, now fleeing to the restricted area, swiftly pulled himself along and leaped over a fence. He ran quickly as he escaped from the demon, shouting for help and pleading to be saved. Suddenly, he tripped on a rock and fell to the ground. Quickly, he stood up, brushing his head off. Finally, he spotted a house nearby. He ran, thinking he could hide there, and quickly went inside. His heart thumped as he wondered what that sound was. He peered through the door, convinced that there was no way the threat had followed him, but to his horror, he saw that it had indeed followed him. Realizing he was doomed, Maru noted that the demon was a level 3 creature with strange objects floating over its head. He wondered about the leaf-like thing on its head and how it had appeared. Suddenly, he saw someone arrive, a grandmother. She asked who was there and wondered why there was a golden fog in the middle of the day, as she could hardly see. The grandmother couldn't see the demon in front of her. The demon growled slightly as it noticed the grandmother, while Maru thought that she was in danger and that he had to help her. But since he had no power at that moment, he wondered what he could do. He recalled what young Yoon had said. Those who had received the powers of demon could heal in the dust, but she had warned that a fatal wound could still kill them. Concluding that he might die, he prioritized his own safety and realized he had to survive. Meanwhile, the grandmother asked, "Who is there? Is it Miss Kim?" Upon hearing this, the demon repeated, "Miss Kim." The grandmother told it to stop mimicking her, but as she opened her eyes, she saw the demon and sat in fear, wondering what it was. The demon then repeated, "Miss Kim" again. It pointed its finger, and the leaf-like object on its head suddenly pointed toward the grandmother. It flicked its finger, and the strange appendage moved, causing blood to splash everywhere. Surprisingly, the grandmother felt nothing. Slowly, she opened her eyes and saw a man in front of her shielding her. Maru asked if she was all right, and although she replied that she was fine, to her astonishment, Maru's body fell onto her. He then told the grandmother to run away quickly. Moreover, Maru wondered, why do I only have a level 1 Rakshasa ability? It's as worthless as my resume. He muttered that in the end he would die because he didn't have real powers and couldn't even save the grandmother. His eyes grew blurry as he looked at her in concern. Pleading, Maru begged, "Please, I'm begging you, if anyone could just come," as he cried out for help. Suddenly, golden dust began to seep into his wound. His body started to change, veins emerging visibly. Shortly, his eyes glowed and his teeth sharpened. Without hesitation, he charged toward the demon. Meanwhile, Captain Kang was already on her way to the demon when she suddenly heard a loud noise that made her stop running. She quickly went to the area where the sound had come from and was surprised to see the newbie attacking the demon. Astonished, she wondered what the newbie was doing. Suddenly, the demon grabbed Maru's head and forcefully pushed him, sending him flying into a wall. Despite the impact, Maru remained conscious and felt a strong will within him. Meanwhile, the demon did something strange. It clutched the wound that Maru had inflicted on itself. Upon seeing this, Captain Kang concluded that the demon was unable to regenerate in the area where the newbie had bitten it. Although she wondered why, she declared that this was not the time to worry about that detail. She then charged at the demon, aiming to seize the object on its head. As she grabbed it forcefully, her hand was wounded, and as a result, she transformed into her ability as the Iron Rakshasa ability user. The demon noticed her presence, growing even angrier, so it hurled its pointy appendage toward her. But Captain Kang immediately turned around, her eyes meeting the objects hurled at her. She swiftly deflected them with her weapon, sending the objects back toward the demon, which instantly covered its face. Seizing the opportunity, Captain Kang struck the demon's body. The demon was immobilized, and shortly after, its head was sliced in half. Finally, the demon perished and was successfully defeated by Captain Kang. Slowly, its body began to vanish like ash. Captain Kang then rushed to the grandmother, asking if she was all right and whether she was regaining her senses. Shortly, the grandmother sat up and asked what had just happened. Captain Kang explained that it was nothing more than a wild boar that had appeared and then run away. Fortunately, Kang was relieved that ordinary people tend to forget about demons once the golden dust clears, and and she reassured the grandmother not to worry, as the public servants would handle the aftermath. The grandmother went inside, and Captain Kang told her to take care before turning her attention to Han Maru. She walked over to him, wondering what was wrong with the newbie. Noticing that his severed arms had already regrown, she asked if he was really just a level 1 Rakshasa ability user. Han Maru felt frustrated as he woke up, realizing that they were asking him to begin work the following day. Suddenly, he remembered the moment he had encountered a Rakshasa demon and thought he did not want to go. He assured himself that he definitely wasn't going. However, desperate for a job, he began to consider it. Ultimately, he decided to simply go back to sleep. Han Maru had been sleeping for a while when he suddenly fell into a deep sleep and began dreaming. In his dream, the demons were again engaged in battle, and he heard voices urging him to return. Shortly after, he awoke from his dream, surprised, and then sat up, trying to breathe normally. He looked at his hand, wondering what it was, as it had haunted him for so long. When he realized it was already morning, he opened the window and looked outside. To his surprise, he saw a fire on Shingai Mountain, making him wonder if the blaze would spread this far. The demons were the cause of the fire on the mountain. It was a fire demon spreading a surge of flames. The special civil servants were on the scene to take control of the situation. The woman in charge was a water Rakshasa with the ability to control water. As water fell onto the fire demon, it detested the effect. Meanwhile, another individual assisting, an ice Rakshasa with the ability to control ice, froze the demon's feet to the ground. They immobilized it and froze its entire body. The water ability user called the team leader and mentioned that Rakshasas were not supposed to appear at night, but the team leader instructed her to focus on preventing the wildfire damage for now. As the fire demon's body began heating up and slowly melting the ice, the team leader immediately utilized his weapon. He told her that he would handle this one without hesitation and charged at the monster. Suddenly, something strange struck the monster. A black entity with eyes ordered the demon to bring it to him. This instantly made the fire demon release a surge of power and break free from the ice. Even as the demon broke free, it charged at the team leader, but it punched him. He instinctively defended himself but was pushed away by the strong force, causing him to hit a tree. His eyes and arms were burned by the fire, so his companion rushed to his aid. Suddenly, the demon's head began to emit lava, then released it, creating a surge of molten lava. The team leader wondered why he felt frightened and why he was growing stronger. The situation soon reached the SOOU headquarters, where panic set in as multiple areas went on red alert. Young Yun came and asked about the current status. To their surprise, they were being attacked concurrently on 20 mountains nationwide, and the Rakshas's appearance pattern had completely changed. Young Yun began to think that it had all started happening a week ago during the Pusan, so she wondered why there was suddenly an urgent call from the Pusan branch. Young Yun picked up the call and asked what the matter was. The man on the other end, identifying himself as the Busan director B. Mick, informed her that there was a situation on Junyang Mountain in Busan. He explained that the portal had remained open for 3 days straight, which surprised her. He said that they killed and killed, but the creatures kept crawling out, and the Junjiang Mountain team was completely exhausted. Suddenly, another demon emerged from the gate. Meanwhile, Young Yun asked why the portal had not closed and if they had identified the cause. He replied that the Rakshasas had just kept babbling nonsense. As the monster emerged from the gate, it kept talking. According to their translation, Rakshasa user and Rakshasa interpretation, it was saying, "Bring him to me." So Young Yun asked, "Bring who?" The demon finally exited the gate and leaped forward toward the teen. It leaped high up and then shortly descended to the ground. Byamazik informed her that what they did not know was that he needed to be there. Meanwhile, the demon loomed over the special civil servant team. Young Yun ended the call, filled with curiosity and unease about whom the demons desired. On the other hand, a helicopter was on its way to help. A man picked up the call and asked what was the matter. He was told that the situation on Jumjiang Mountain was dire, but he informed them that he was almost there and would call again once the problem was solved. Suddenly, he leaped at the helicopter. He fell through the air and was about to descend when a bright light emanated from him. His speed increased as he neared the golden dust. As he entered it, he inhaled the dust, and his appearance changed. At that moment, he utilized his skill spatial inversion and continued descending from the sky until he landed on the roof of the gate. The Busan team noticed his presence and began to wonder. They looked around, asking who he was as he appeared out of nowhere, and warned that it was dangerous there. Meanwhile, the demon suddenly noticed him and caught its attention. It leaped toward a woman. The woman immediately realized the demon was about to charge and quickly evaded it. Then, turning around, she saw, to her surprise, that the demon was already poised to attack her. On the other hand, a man opened something resembling a rift. He widened it until the appearance was dark. The ability he used was the spatial tear, which also appeared behind the monster. Quickly, he put his hands into the spatial rift and pulled the monster out of the tear he created. In an instant, its head was in his hand, and as a result, the demon was instantly incapacitated. The Busan team was shocked by this sudden turn of events. Shortly afterward, the man descended from the roof and told them that they had worked hard. He said he would handle it from there and that they should take a break. The woman then quickly asked the team leader, "Who's that guy?" He replied that he was the first Rakshasa ability user and the founder of the Special Yellow Dust Task Force. Before beginning his work, the man stretched his body, steadied himself, and thought that he would wrap this up quickly. He was known as the strongest Rakshasa ability user at the moment, Director Jung Il-do. Moreover, his ability spread throughout the area. It enveloped the rocks surrounding the gate. The dark violet power spread across the entire mountain until it reached the top and even enveloped the moon. The Busan team glanced upward, observing something peculiar in the sky. They pondered the nature of these dark fissures. The team leader remarked that it was his first time seeing them up close, having only heard of someone possessing spatial abilities, and questioned why such a powerful ability was significant. Jang Wickel then opened a black rift, revealing golden dust within. On the blazing mountain, the magma beast had grown even more massive, and the ice water dew had nearly lost its effect. The girl had collapsed, while the guy desperately urged her to get up. If she didn't, they were both doomed. The lava monster lunged forward again, and the ice user barely managed to summon a barrier, but it started shattering under the beast's force. He kept defending himself, but the relentless attacks wore him down until his shield broke completely, sending him hurtling through the air. As he lay gasping on the ground, he knew this was it. His end was near. But just then, a rift split open behind the monster. Jang grabbed the creature's head and wrenched it through, flinging the entire beast away. The ensuing explosion scattered crows into the sky. Jang declared that it was time to wipe out every last monster. Activating every rift unit across Ganghwa province, he set his plan into motion. Elsewhere, a boy was being crushed under the weight of a demon that spoke in an unknown tongue before thrusting a blade into his chest. But before it could finish him, a rift tore open behind the creature, swallowing it whole. This phenomenon repeated itself across the attacked mountains. The monsters vanished one by one, dragged into a single, unknown location. The chaos had ceased, but now all the demons were concentrated in one place. A staff member noticed the danger signals disappearing, prompting the vice director to remark with quiet confidence that this only meant Jang had arrived. Jung's strategy had worked. Every demon was now in one place, but that also meant facing all of them at once. Jang, however, was unfazed. This was exactly what he wanted. As the creature shrieked and charged, he pointed at one and ripped open a spatial rift. Then, with elegant precision, he spun and slashed in all directions, cutting them down effortlessly. Severed heads flew through the air as the squad watched in stunned disbelief. This level of power was beyond anything they had witnessed before. Jang turned his focus to the massive magma beast and called for the translator. He demanded to know why the demons had become so agitated this week. The response came through: "Bring that person." Jang's expression darkened as he asked who this person was, but the creature merely echoed his question back. Seeing that no real answers were coming, Jang slammed the monster into the ground. If words wouldn't work, then he'd simply eliminate them until they stopped coming. Drenched in blood, he shifted his focus to the gate. Placing his hand on the ground, he created a spatial void beneath it, swallowing the entire area in one swift move. One of the squad members exhaled in relief, feeling reassured knowing that someone like Jang was on their side. With a single motion, he deactivated his power, making the gate vanish as if it had never existed. The following day at headquarters, Yu Young stormed into Jang's office, demanding an explanation about the portal. Jang, exhausted, casually revealed that it was inside his black void, having taken a massive effort to contain. Unimpressed, she told him to handle the situation as usual. Jang groaned. He wasn't an entire organization by himself. Turning on the TV, he assured her that he understood, but he had already collected the information she wanted. The screen displayed images of the new recruits. Curious, Yu Young questioned his interest in them. He explained that he was searching for a reason. The reason why the demons weren't just invading, but seemed to be after him specifically. Amidst the heaps of monstrous corpses, a colossal woman's lifeless lifeless body lay still, a single, ever-watching green eye fixated on the scene, its eerie voice repeating the same command, "Bring him." Meanwhile, Maru was beginning his first day at work. His mother had been overjoyed when she heard he got a government job, though he couldn't share the details. Seeing her happiness made it impossible for him to refuse. Upon arrival, he was immediately greeted by a man in a Hawaiian shirt who bluntly asked why he had come back. The man scoffed, saying he didn't need a coward on his team. Maru, meanwhile, noticed only the strong scent of alcohol. Seonwoo soon arrived and wasted no time complaining, insisting he wanted to be transferred to the main city. The leader merely shrugged. He had no idea why a level 7 was sent here either. Something wasn't right. Regardless, they were both now part of Ganghwa's team. Maru couldn't help but wonder what his actual role was when there weren't any demons left to fight. The moment their leader opened a door, he saw people slaughtering zombies and dissecting creatures. But reality quickly snapped back. It was just an ordinary office. The man in the Hawaiian shirt introduced himself as Go Deokman, the team leader. The girl with glasses was Ji Won-yoon, with 7 years of experience. Another lanky man, also with 7 years, was Kim Ibak. Then there was Yoseok, the TikToker, who had been around for only a year. Deokman urged them to get along and pick any seat. Sweating nervously, Maru took a spot, wondering if everyone felt this anxious on their first day. He attempted a friendly greeting, but the man sitting across from him, Zanu, simply glared and told him to stop staring. Maru instantly deflated. Zanu, on the other hand, was frustrated that he had been assigned to this remote location. Leaderjurg for better conversation, Maru turned to Yoseok, who was casually browsing luxury brands on his phone. When he asked about their actual job, Yoseok nonchalantly explained that their unit dealt with golden dust. There were 13 divisions across Seoul, and those ranked level 7 or higher were assigned to special missions. Their island, however, was mostly for misfits or underachievers. Maru immediately related that explained why he was here, but something about this place still felt off. Yuk chimed in, mentioning that some competent people actually volunteered for this job. Just then, both of them turned their heads, and damn, that girl was training hard. Maru, feeling awkward, straightened up, but she stared directly at him. Yan advised her to head home after her shift at the station, but she simply sat down, stating that she had no reason to go home. Kang Chana silently observed everything, noting Maru's presence. Something was strange. She had woken up that morning with no memory of the previous day. Meanwhile, Maru was surprised to learn he would be receiving hazard pay. The salary was good, but the fact that hazard pay even existed meant his life was in constant danger. Then Yoseok added that it was 5 times the normal salary, which is around 100,000 USD a year. Maru's eyes widened. That was a lot of money. Yoseok, annoyed, told him to stop talking. He was busy shopping. Maru, meanwhile, was still trying to figure out what exactly he was supposed to do in this place. As time passed, he slowly got used to the environment. He never expected to land such an easy job with such a high salary. Then, stretching after a long day, Go Deokman announced that work was over. Approaching the 2 newcomers, he asked if they had any issues or questions. Zanu just shook his head. Maru, however, had one lingering thought. Where did demons actually come from, and why did they exist? Deokman simply shrugged. No one knew, and they don't care either. They just follow orders and hunt demons. Maru exhaled, realizing the terrifying truth. Humanity was doomed, yet nobody seemed to care. And yet, somehow, these people continued doing their jobs, no matter how bizarre their reality was. Then they decided to have welcome party for the newcomers. Back at headquarters, Young took the elevator down and found Jung standing before a golden capsule. He asked her what she thought. She glanced at some reports, noting that the monster appearances seemed to have stabilized, but Jung kept his eyes on the swirling golden mist, questioning what had triggered this surge of creatures. Young suggested that maybe they were getting closer to the day of reckoning, but Jung wasn't convinced. He was staring at a fallen angel, bound and suspended upside down, white-hailed and mysterious. Something wasn't adding up. For now, Jung wanted all the leaders to stay on high alert. If the rest of the organization found out about these details, it would cause absolute chaos. Meanwhile, Maru was with the others, asking what they had been talking about. They were grilling barbecue, explaining that this was exactly why they had to celebrate as much as possible. Uda mentioned that because of a certain prophecy, they made sure to enjoy life every day. Confused, Maru asked for an actual explanation. The leader finally answered. The prophecy foretold that in 1 year, demons would rain from the sky, countless portals would open across the world, and the earth would be drenched in blood. Maru found that terrifying, but Goodman told him to keep quiet, this was a classified secret. Meanwhile, Yon encouraged everyone to drink until they threw up, while Yosok wanted to go home. Kangchana warned them to be careful since they had work tomorrow. Apparently, Zanu's biggest weakness was alcohol, and he was already passed out. Maru, however, kept telling everyone to stop drinking while wondering why no one seemed to be alarmed by this day of reckoning prophecy. Just then, a golden light shone above a mountain. A gate opened in the sky, pouring out golden dust. Countless hands emerged from within. The moment the first bald-headed monster appeared, everyone's phones blared with an emergency alert. Yu Young sighed, disappointed. Nighttime disasters were annoying. She just wanted some time to relax. Meanwhile, Kangchana stood up, saying she'd be back soon. Zanu immediately said he was going with her, but she refused and instead chose Maru. Maru wanted nothing to do with this. Yet here he was, forehead pressed against the car window, wondering how he ended up in this mess. Kang then reassured him that he didn't need to worry too much about the prophecy. Maru argued that it wasn't something to take lightly, but she confidently stated that the higher-ups were already making the necessary preparations. Many powerful individuals worked for the organization. Their job was simple: locate the demons and kill them. Maru was terrified, but he was also completely smitten by how cool she was. She then mentioned that he seemed to have a special ability, and she was curious to see what he could do. For the first time, someone actually expected something from him. But then she casually remarked, "I've never seen someone eat like you before." She wondered if he had some kind of gluttony ability. Maru had no idea what she was talking about. She explained that it literally looked like he had the power to eat demons. He hated the sound of that. But then the scene cut to a monster being impaled. Kang had easily pinned it down and turned to him. "You really gonna make me say it? Eat it." Beaming, she explained that his ability seemed to prevent regeneration, so she wanted to see it in action. It was time for him to take a bite. Maru hesitated, but with no choice, he tore off a piece of the monster's tentacle. Disgusting. He told himself to just think of it as eating octopus at a restaurant. He leaned in, teeth bared but barely nibbled. Kang scolded him. He needed to bite like he meant it. Maru sighed, said he understood, and reluctantly started chewing. The next day at the office, Maru was dying. His entire body ached. Zanu smirked, saying he heard that Maru threw up yesterday. What an idiot. Maru didn't even care. He just asked Zanu what he expected from him. Zanu scoffed. Someone like him should never have been sent here. They should have assigned someone actually useful. He should be grateful that Commander Kang even had the slightest interest in his ability. Then he walked off flat out, calling Maru useless trash. Maru was roasted. But to be fair, Zanu had a point. He needed to wake up and try harder. Just then the alarm rang. Kang turned to call his name, but Maru was already in the bathroom, hands on his face, trying to figure out how to get used to eating monsters. He had an ability, which was good, but his ability was eating monsters, which was not good. As he walked down the hallway, he suddenly ran into Kang and nearly had a heart attack. She raised an eyebrow and asked if he had been hiding in the bathroom. Maru said he heard the alarm, but he had food poisoning from biting that creature. Kang sighed, lowering her head. "You're really not suited for this job," she muttered. She explained that he didn't have to work for the government just because he had a special power. There was another option. He could sign a contract stating he wouldn't talk about this to anyone. Then he could live his life under constant surveillance for the rest of his days. Maru was shocked. He thought the alternative would be easier than that. But Kang added that this was still better than dying on the battlefield. People like him didn't last long. If he wasn't up for it, he needed to quit now. Kang leaned in close. "We don't need people who are useless." Damn. Roasted everywhere he went. Meanwhile, back at the office, Kang assumed Maru had given up. You'd think this was his motivation arc, but no. He was standing on a bridge, actually happy for once. Maybe he really wasn't cut out for this. Maybe living under surveillance was better than dying in battle. Poor guy had no idea he was the protagonist of this story. Escape was impossible. Right then, his phone rang. It was his mother. He answered, already thinking about quitting. "Hey, what are you up to?" She told him she was on a hiking trip to Iniwang Mountain. Maru froze. He put a hand over his face and groaned. He had already told her to stop climbing mountains. But then the call quality suddenly worsened. His mother paused, confused, asking why there was so much golden dust in the air. His heart dropped. The call cut off. Oh, hell no. Now the motivation arc was kicking in. At Iwan Mountain, the security team had already been deployed to handle a reported demon sighting. The guards stood frozen, unsure of their next move. Then, one of them looked up and his breath hitched. A creature sat perched in a tree, casually chewing on a human arm. A crystal embedded in its forehead glistened as it curled its lips into a sinister smile. Meanwhile, Maru was dashing crashing toward the mountain. The level 5 demon had torn through the entire security team, leaving nothing but mangled corpses in its wake. No one remained to stop the slaughter. But just then, a heavy-set woman, the regional leader, stepped in. Without hesitation, she activated her duplication ability, telling the few survivors to call for backup while she stalled the beast. One of them bolted toward the landline, the only communication method that worked here since cell phones were useless in this area. Back at headquarters, Yu Young received the emergency request. Without wasting a second, she took charge, issuing immediate deployment orders. The situation was critical. If that level 5 demon managed to descend the mountain, it would be a bloodbath. Time was running out. They had to move, now. Meanwhile, Maru had arrived at the foot of the mountain, but he wasn't the first to get there. He barely had time to process what was happening before he spotted himself, or at least someone who looked exactly like him. No time to dwell on that. His priority was his mother. He ran to the hiking tour group, scanning the crowd in a frenzy, but she was nowhere in sight. Desperate, he approached a guide. "Let me through. My mom's in there." The guide blocked his path. "It's too dangerous. There are wild animals in the area." Wild animals, my ass. Maru knew the truth. It wasn't animals lurking in the mist, it was demons. While the guards focused on locking down the main entrance, Maru made his move. Instead of waiting, he began scaling the mountain from the opposite side. It was the fastest way up. With every step, his chest tightened. He could only pray his mother was still safe. Deep within the thick golden mist, a figure winced as she shifted her weight. Chad, Mom, had twisted her ankle. Yet without hesitation, she crouched down, let the injured woman climb onto her back, and kept moving. But then she stopped. Something stirred in the fog. "What was that?" she muttered. A hand suddenly reached for her. Maru burst onto the scene, his voice laced with panic. His mother turned in shock. "How the hell did you find me?" He barely managed a breathless answer. "Your social media post." Before she could question him further, another woman perked up. "Oh, so this is the son you were talking about. You must be so proud. Getting a government job is a huge achievement." Maru's mother beamed. "Yes, now all that's left is to find him a wife, though he's not exactly popular with girls." Maru groaned. "Can we focus, please?" But just as he spoke, an unsettling feeling crept up his spine. His instincts screamed at him. He whipped his head up and locked eyes with it. The demon. His breath hitched. His body locked up. Every time he saw one of these creatures, it happened. A full-blown panic attack. His vision blurred. His muscles refused to move. How the hell am I supposed to protect my mom like this? Then, movement. It's attacking. The injured woman turned to look at Maru. "Hey, that boy doesn't look so good." Before she could process it, Maru's mother screamed his name. The demon's attention snapped toward her. It lunged. Maru flung himself forward and tripped, tumbling down the slope like an absolute idiot. He barely had time to recover before the demon's jaws snapped shut, inches from his mother's throat. No, but then, out of nowhere, knives impaled the demon's back. It collapsed, shrieking in pain. Maru's eyes widened. Where the hell did those come from? His mother, still in shock, turned to him. "What's on your head?" Reaching up, Maru felt something foreign. Horns? No, blades. A memory surfaced. One of the demons he had fought before had possessed this exact ability. Then, a sensation crawled up his spine. Something shifted in his back. Another knife formed. Holy shit. Realization struck. His power wasn't just stopping regeneration. He could steal abilities. A slow smirk crept onto his lips. All right, let's see what this power can do. But something was off. The demon was already scrambling away. It's weaker than I expected. Why had the others struggled so much against a creature like this? Meanwhile, elsewhere on the mountain, 2 agents from headquarters arrived to find a lone injured soldier slumped against a fence. Bloodied and shaking, the man barely managed to speak. "See to the demon, it was terrifying. Wiped out my whole team." One of the agents frowned. "That's hard to believe. The regional leader's a level 7 user?" His partner, a slick-haired man, leaned in. "What ability did it have?" The wounded soldier swallowed hard. "It had the mirror ability." Back at Maru's location, something shimmered on the demon's back. His stomach dropped. "Wait, it copied my attack?" Before he could react, crystals erupted from the monster's body, impaling him. His mind reeled. "That bastard copied me." The demon slowly advanced, its forehead gleaming like a mirror. "Shit, it's reflecting my movements." If he attacked, it would strike back with the exact same force. A pained gasp behind him. Maru spun around. His mother was clutching her knee, blood dripping down. His injuries didn't matter, but she had to be okay. Forcing a grin, he lifted his shirt to show her for his wounds. Don't worry, I'm fine. His mother blinked. No more hesitation. He turned to her. Hide, I'll take care of this. She hesitated but saw the look in his eyes. Pure determination. He was a public servant, a protector, and he wasn't about to lose. Without another word, he launched himself at the demon, grabbed it by the waist, and hurled it off the mountain. He went down with it. His mother screamed as flocks of crows scattered into the sky. Maru landed hard, his body aching, but there was no time to rest. He forced himself up. The demon was regenerating. Then, another problem. The two agents who had arrived earlier finally saw the full picture. It wasn't one level 5 demon. It was many. A horde of monsters loomed ahead. One of the agents narrowed his eyes. Why do they all look the same? His bald companion muttered grimly. The regional leader had a duplication ability, which meant she had been copied. The slick-haired agent grinned. Doesn't matter, he cracked his knuckles. I'll just kill them all. With that, he slammed his fist into the ground, unleashing a shockwave that sent the creatures flying. His bald partner sighed. Idiot. But one thing was certain. The real threat? It was still below Maru. Maru realized with growing frustration that the damn creature was regenerating just as fast as he was. The real problem? He was starting to get exhausted. Then, out of nowhere, a voice spoke. What's wrong, Maru? His stomach dropped. That voice, it was his mother's, which actually came from Demon. Don't do that, Maru snapped, hurling knives at the creature. But his aim was off. Controlling someone else's ability wasn't as easy as it looked. Meanwhile, the monster calmly formed a crystal and launched it straight into his shoulder. The pain only pissed him off more. This time, he let loose an entire barrage of knives, one of which struck the monster's shoulder. Got you, Maru cheered, only for the creature to grunt, shake its body, and instantly regenerate. His heart sank. They had the same attack ability, but the monster's recovery speed was even worse than his. That meant it was actually weaker. Then, something clicked in his mind. A conversation with Kang Chana surfaced. I have a feeling you never actually listened to what I say. Lying on the ground, bleeding out, Maru had muttered that maybe he just wasn't cut out for this, but back then, Kang had simply extended her hand and pulled him up. You're just scared of getting hurt, she had told him. Inside the golden mist, wounds healed. So what if the pain was real? That was just part of it. If he wanted to survive, he had to eat those damn demons. She had crushed his hand as she spoke, and he had asked if there was a better way to fight. To kill a monster like this, you have to cut off its head and stop it from absorbing golden dust. Since he lacked an offensive ability, he could only play support. But on the flip side, his regeneration was the best. That meant he shouldn't be afraid to face monsters head-on. Back in the present, Maru grinned. If his ability was the best, then he had no reason to be scared. Besides, thanks to gluttony, he had more than enough strength to end this. The problem? He still couldn't aim properly. Landing a precise hit on the neck would be difficult. The monster kept taunting him, still using his mother's voice. What's wrong, Maru? That was it. If he couldn't aim, then there was only one solution. Maru threw another crystal. The demon dodged, only to look up and see him already mid-air charging straight at it. The creature barely had time to react. It released golden mist, trying to block him, but he bit down on his knife to stop the attack. Then it grabbed him by the throat. What's wrong, Maru? The monster repeated, pressing him against a rock before slamming him onto the mountaintop. Maru gasped, struggling to breathe. He couldn't activate gluttony. He needed to bite this thing, but the demon wasn't close enough. Then it bit his neck first. He couldn't bite back, so he yanked a knife from his back and stabbed the creature's side. Blood poured from his wound. His vision blurred. Why? Why wasn't he healing? A chilling thought hit him. The monkey had copied his ability. Did that mean it could block his regeneration too? Looking at the pool of blood beneath him, Maru had no idea how much time he had left. If he failed here, what would happen? Another memory surfaced. Another conversation with Kang Chana. How many times are you going to pass out? She had sighed. He had explained it was a panic attack. His chest tightened, his mind went blank, and all he felt was the certainty of death. Her response. That's exactly why you need to get over it. At this rate, the next time you think you're going to die, you actually will. You're the last line of defense for civilians. If you're weak, they die. In the present, his mother was wandering nearby, calling his name. Somehow, he was still alive. Gripping his bleeding neck, he looked absolutely wrecked. He picked up a crystal. The monkey copied him. So what? Kang's words echoed in his mind. Even if it did, he had to take this thing down with him. He bit his lip, furious. Then, he screamed and ran straight at the demon. The monster crouched, dodging, and stabbed him in the ribs. But Maru had already thrown a dagger straight up into the air. The creature frowned. What's wrong, Maru? Maru grabbed it and roared. Every single crystal he had thrown so so far flew toward them. The monster froze. It got hit by all of them. Actually, they both did. But at least the last knife, the one he had thrown straight up, finally came down and cleanly severed the monster's head. Its limbs detached. Its body collapsed. Maru stumbled back, shaking before falling over. Maru finally successfully killed that overpowered copy demon. Back at hiking area, the agents watched as the monster disintegrated. Agent wondered if they had just killed the original. The bald one shook his head. No, someone else did, but the question is who did this? Meanwhile, back on the mountain, Maru's wounds slowly healed. But this time, he truly thought he had almost died. Then, he got up intending to find his mother, until his father's voice whispered behind him, "Eat." Maru froze. His father pointed at the monster's remains. "Go back and eat it." And finally, Maru understood. That crazy old man had known all along. This monster had a rare and powerful ability. If he ate it, he might gain another power. And then, he remembered Godman's prophecy. In 1 year, creatures will rain from the sky. Maru clenched his fists. If he wanted to be strong enough to protect his mother, then there was only one path forward. He stepped toward the corpse. And with that, he began his daily meal. Now fully confident, sharper than ever, he licked his lips and declared, "From this day forward, I'll eat any strong demon I encounter and become the strongest." Sometime later, his mother woke up in the hospital, confused but surprisingly calm. She asked if she had really passed out on the mountain, but didn't seem too worried about it, saying she didn't remember much. Maru was relieved. She should have remembered. The monster had been right in front of her. But maybe that was for the best. To change the subject, he showed her a news report about the events on the mountain and told her to stay out of dangerous situations from now on. But then she mentioned something unexpected. She had heard rumors about someone who looked like his father being seen on the mountain. That was why she had gone to check it out. Maru's mind started piecing things together. His father had also disappeared on a mountain. Could this all be connected to demons? A memory surfaced, one he had never recalled before. A forest. His own pale face filled with terror because he see his father and blood dripping from his mouth, barely clinging to life. His father's was being devoured by a mysterious and terrific demon. Panic attack incoming. But before he could spiral, his Giga Chad mother snapped him back to reality, asking why he looked so pale. Yeah, working for the government really was exhausting. Still feeling shaky, he reassured her he was fine and left for work. The moment he stepped in, his colleague called out, "Officer Maruhan." He had been trying to keep a low profile, but now he had no choice but to awkwardly step forward. Joan immediately asked what had happened yesterday and why he had disappeared without a word. Before Maru could say anything, Zanu scoffed. "Isn't it obvious? The coward got scared and ran away." Maru could have explained that he left to save his mother, but instead he just apologized. Then, out of nowhere, Kong Chana, the woman who somehow kept getting more stunning every day, casually spoke up. "He was sick, so I gave him the day off." Maru blinked. Why was she covering for him? She just stared at him, a silent, don't say anything in her gaze. Joan sighed, saying Kang should have informed them about something like that. Kang apologized, but Joan wasn't letting it slide. You can't just say sorry after messing up like this. Before the argument could escalate, the alarm blared. Without hesitation, Kang started gearing up, announcing she was heading out to take down a level 2 demon. Then, for some reason, Maru enthusiastically shouted, "I'm going too!" The room fell silent. A while later, they were hiking up the mountain. Maru, already sweating and out of breath, took the chance to apologize for making Kang take the blame for his mistake. She shrugged it off, saying she knew he had left because she had been too harsh on him, so it was fine. Then she asked, "But why did you come back?" Maru, gasping for air, managed to answer, "He was here to fight." Right at that moment, the ground rumbled. Golden dust rose into the air. A massive, obese figure appeared in the distance. The monster charged straight at them. It was a huge, gray, old man, screaming that he was ready to fight. Kang warned them not to underestimate it. Even though it was only level 2, an entire mountain team had been wiped out by a mere level 5 demon before. Maru knew exactly which one she meant, the one he had beaten yesterday. Yosok, the TikToker, casually commented that those guys were lucky HQ had handled that demon. After all, the main branch only had level 7 and above users, people on a completely different level. Maru froze. Should he say it? Should he tell them he was the one who killed it? The problem was he had left early yesterday and explaining everything would be a pain, but he wanted recognition. He wanted them to know he worked hard too. Before he could decide, Kang asked, "What is that demon doing?" The creature had its hands under its arms, scratching its armpits. Someone yelled for them to step back, but Maru suddenly stepped forward. "No need, I'll handle this." this? Kang looked genuinely surprised. Since when does a level 1 user think they can take on a level 2? Maru pointed at himself. That level 1 user is me! Then, with all the confidence in the world, he slicked back his hair. Time to show them how much he had evolved since the last battle. He mimicked the demon's movements, scratching his own armpits. A horrific stench filled the air. The monster sniffed, screamed, and ran away. That was supposed to be its ability. Even Maru was disgusted by what he had just done, but still he rushed in. I'm not losing to trash like this. He landed solid punches to its stomach, making it stumble. Yosok, meanwhile, covered his nose, saying, "This isn't a fight, it's chemical warfare." Kangchana, who, mind you, was level 7, was barely standing, dizzy from the smell. Maru, completely ignoring how gross he looked, kept flailing his arms in what could only be described as a high-intensity slap battle. The monster wailed, realizing its own ability was working against it. Then Maru did his final move and monster vomited, collapsed, and passed out. Maru turned to the others, smiling. I won, right? They did not look impressed. Later, after washing up in the river, Kangchana sat nearby, watching Maru. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, "So you really can absorb demon abilities through gluttony?" Maru nodded. The last demon he ate had the ability to reflect attacks. Yosok mocked him. "Oh, so that's what all your dramatic speech was about, that whole build-up for that?" Maru felt a little embarrassed, but Kang just shrugged. "Doesn't matter, you did well." Maru was about to bask in the praise, until she ruined the moment by adding, "But honestly, you're still disgusting for having to eat those things. Humiliating." As the others left to check for more demons, Maru sat there, wondering, why did I have to get stuck with that monster? Why can't I ever look cool? Then, someone appeared behind him. "Are you Meru-han?" Maru froze, covered his face. "Who's asking?" It was Jang, and he only had one question. "Did you kill the level 5 demon on the mountain?" Considering Maru was supposed to be a mere level 1, this was an extremely strange thing to ask. Maru, feeling awkward, answered, "Yes." Jang smiled. "I'm here to take you to HQ in Seoul." Maru blinked. "Wait, is this a promotion?" Jang, still smiling like a main character, replied, "Because I recognize talent when I see it. Petition for the artist to stop wasting time drawing this guy and focus on the characters we actually care about." Maru, still surprised which potential he is talking about. Back at headquarters, Yu Yang was questioning the director about the delayed meeting, and the director explained that a new recruit had caught his attention. Immediately, Yu Yang asked if the director was talking about his son, the kid named Seon Woo. The director clarified that the kid hadn't spoken to him since the divorce, and that the person who intrigued him wasn't his son at all, but another new recruit. Yu Yang raised an eyebrow and asked if the sudden appearance of high-level demons might be related to this new recruit, and the director nodded, saying, "I have a feeling, keep an eye on Ganghwa Island." The scene then shifted to another portal filled with golden dust, and inside what looked like a house, a small twisted creature crouched in the shadows, a sickly mutated gremlin. Back at the Ganghwa task force office, Maru was grinning like an idiot, absolutely thrilled to have been invited to work at headquarters, thinking it was huge, until reality hit him that if they were calling him there, it must be even more dangerous than where he was. So he had to remember safety first, even in a beautifully peaceful workplace, while still feeling damn good to be recognized by someone at the very top. Then, Seon Woo was staring at him from across the room, asking, "Why have you been walking around with that stupid smile all day?" It was obvious how much that arrogant guy hated seeing a level 1 weakling enjoying an easy life, so Maru fired back, "You're the incompetent one. If you want to work at HQ, you're not there, so you don't have the right to say anything," which made Seon Woo's face darken as he stood up fuming and retorted, "Say that again. Like hell I'm gonna sit here and take moral lectures from someone who has the ability of stinky armpits." Maru froze and demanded, "Who the hell leaked that information?" As he glanced around, noticing Yosok typing away at his computer pretending to be busy. Instantly, Maru knew it was that bastard, and feeling the rage of 1,000 suns, he lunged at Yosok, who instantly ran for his life, while meanwhile Dyokman laughed his ass off and Yun told everyone to stop bullying Maru. Maru sighed in relief, saying to Jan, "You really are a good person," and she clapped her hands and said, "At least you're not hiding in the bathroom anymore. Now you just stink a little. That's progress." Which made Maru feel as if his soul was leaving his body from embarrassment. To make matters worse, he resented how Kang remained indifferent to everything, even after he had helped her that day, still seeing him as useless. He then looked down at Zhang's contact information, remembering that Zhang had told him to send a message once he made a decision. At that moment, Kang stood up and and announced that a level 2 creature had appeared. And immediately, Xian-Wu grabbed her arm and said, "I'm going this time," because he was bored out of his mind in that office and felt like he was about to explode if he stayed any longer. Then he turned to Maru and declared, "You're coming too. We need to work on team bonding," as the two of them began. Climbing the mountain under the brutal sun, sweating profusely. When it came to hunting monsters, Xian-Wu was more excited than ever, while Maru, on the other hand, didn't want to spend another second next to that psychopath, wanting nothing more than to finish the job and go home and call the director. Then, Xian-Wu paused and remarked, "This won't be as easy as you think," and Maru followed his gaze to see the entire house ahead covered in golden dust. And Maru figured, there must be more than one person inside, but Xian-Wu ignored him, walked ahead and ordered them to hurry up as the gate creaked open. Maru hesitated at the threshold because something felt off inside the door. There was way too much golden dust, enough to indicate a level 4 or higher creature. Nevertheless, they walked in and Maru muttered that they should turn back since these things could appear out of nowhere. But Xian-Wu kept moving forward until they reached a green door. Seon-Wu was convinced that the monster lurked right behind it, and when Seon-Wu turned the handle, the door remained locked. Maru stepped in front and warned, "This is dangerous. We don't know what's inside." But Seon-Woo had already donned his gloves, saying, "If you don't want to open it, I'll just break it," as he twisted his pinky to try to unlock it, startling everyone when nothing happened and leaving him confused, while Maru told him to stop acting all confident when he couldn't even open a lock. Then Seon-Woo went to check the keyhole at the back of the room where a scrawny little devil was barely visible in the corner. The protagonist pushed him aside, saying he wanted to take a look too, and upon inspecting, he remarked that the thing looked weak, but the guy warned that judging by the amount of dust, this creature was at least level 7 or higher. Frightened, our boy asked why something that strong was on the island, and Seon-Woo replied he had no idea, but now understood why his heart had been racing for so long. He had been eager to fight a truly strong monster. With that, our boy already took off running, saying that Lunik was going to put both their lives at risk, so it was better to call headquarters right away. However, when he turned the lock, it wouldn't budge, and he began slamming his shoulder against it, demanding to know why they couldn't leave the way they came in, until he realized that it must be the work of the demon hiding in the room. Meanwhile, Xiao was kicking and punching, trying to force the door open while shouting at the damn recluse to come out and fight. But Maru didn't want to spend a single second against that demon, much less against that psychopath, especially knowing that as a level 7 hermit Nahal, the blackhead was simply standing there and then suddenly started repeating, "Hermit, hermit," as his face began to distort. When Seon-Woo looked at his fingers, he noticed that his entire hand was already broken, yet the door hadn't even a scratch on it, leaving him to wonder what the creature was made of. At the same time, Maru slammed a chair against the window, but that didn't work either, and it seemed that the hermit Nahal's power was creating a trap house. His heart started to tighten as a panic attack set in, and he wondered if anyone from the office was going to arrive soon. 2 hours later, furious and unsure if those bastards had simply forgotten about them, scene shifted to office where Dokman yelled that they had a problem, and Yoon looked around and said they'd really forgotten about the training date in Busan, prompting everyone to scramble through files and work on sorting things out. Kang Chana slammed the keyboard, got up, ran, grabbed the file, and handed it over to the guy, who thanked everyone for their hard work and said he'd see them tomorrow. Yoon then sat on the couch and suggested that after all that hard work, they should enjoy a nice cup of coffee and some peace, and everyone relaxed for a brief moment, until Yoon wondered where those two had been for the past 3 hours. He then exclaimed, "This is exactly why you shouldn't send a rookie alone," and start rushing towards the location, telling Kang Chana and another guy to stay there, but Kang Chana got up to say she was going too because she had a bad feeling. She walked past Yoon, who stared at her, and warned that the place was dangerously close to that other place, but the girl, who seemed to be carrying some trauma, simply said, "Hurry up and start going. If I had to bet $1 trillion, I'd say her family was killed by demons, and that's why she's so determined to kill them." The scene then shifted to the house where everyone inside was already asking where the two had gone. Through the swirling dust, they saw a shadow approaching as desperate fools shouted at them not to let the door close. But it was too late, and the door slammed right in their faces, leaving the fools wondering why they had barged in like that as they slumped on the floor. Yun asked what had happened, and after the situation was explained, they all stood by the door, realizing that the demon didn't want to leave. That's when Kang told everyone to step back and formed a katana before slashing at the door, but obviously nothing happened. Yosak was terrified that even his attack didn't work, so Yoon instructed everyone to wait because she would handle it. She then pulled up her jacket sleeve to reveal a small black orb on her arm from which a tiny spider emerged. Her ability of Spider Nakhaled Demon Spider, and she told Minnie to go in, but the lock was too small for her chubby spider and it failed, while our boy watched her, consoling the spider and remarking that she seemed like the weirdest one so far. Then Seonwoo told Yosak to do something instead of just standing there, but he replied that he had no abilities, and Maru took the opportunity to mock him, saying that he seemed completely useless in battle. However, the boy fired back that our guy was the useless one, or were all those abilities he'd been absorbing just for nothing, questioning why he didn't use the mirror power to unlock everything. At that moment, our protagonist explained that the creature was too far away, he couldn't see clearly, and his powers didn't reach that far, making it seem like everyone was completely useless. Seonwoo then asked who was going to save them if there was no one else in the office. Yoon replied that the leader wouldn't be coming because he had left for training and wouldn't return until tomorrow, and Yosak reminded them that they still had Kim back in the office. Suddenly, the old bespectacled man appeared, scaring everyone, and when asked when he got there, he replied that he arrived because no one had come back yet. Everyone was shaken by the fact that this weird guy had absolutely no presence, making it impossible to notice his arrival. He walked up to the lock to take a look, and when Yun asked if he could handle it, he suddenly lied down on the floor and started taking a nap. Maru thought to himself that either this guy was extremely calm or had some bizarre ability, while Yun explained that she had no idea what his ability was because she'd never seen him use it. Everyone who had come to save them so far had been useless. Yun then clapped her hands and told them to focus and find a way out together, but Seonwoo reminded her that they'd already tried everything, so there was no way out, and asked if she was prepared to die without doing anything. Yosak suggested waiting for the leader because Demon is not attacking us, while our boy bit his nails in fear, and in the background he wondered why Kang was just standing or doing nothing, as something about that was weird. Yosak, however, wanted to understand why the demon wasn't moving or trying to attack them, and then, out of nowhere, a tremor shook everyone as Kang immediately ran off, shouting that it came from the main room. She opened the door and saw that the entire room was moving, with the walls and ceiling coming down as the house itself seemed to be shrinking. That's when Seonwoo stated that the purpose of that hermit Rakshasa was obvious. It would keep shrinking the space until the house was reduced to just around itself. Since they couldn't destroy the walls, they were going to be crushed to death if they didn't find a solution soon. Maru got filled with fear. What we will do now? Suddenly, a flashback emerged. 4 years ago, a woman were gathering plants with a girl. Kang arrived, greeting them cheerfully with a hi. Shortly before, what might have been her brother ran up to hug him. A happy family in the middle of the mountains, obviously a memory that would not end well. The two were clearly very close and often talked about growing up together with their grandma. Kang remembered a drawing on the wall. Ellen told her brother to stop or he'd get scolded, but her brother insisted it was their happy family portrait, the very drawing on the wall that was now shrinking in present time. It was in the house she grew up in. At that moment, she activated her power and pulled out a massive sword and slashed at the wall using her full strength, but the place kept shrinking and her sword started to crack. She realized she had to use more blood, and things got serious, and she's starting to cover by her demon ability, her neck already turning gray. Yun shouted for her to stop because it was dangerous, and that's when Maru ran in and yanked her out. Breaking the sword, she looked devastated and cried as she watched everything disappear, but just in time, Maru managed to pull her out of that room. The girl, however, seemed to have fainted, and Yun tried to wake her up. Our protagonist already knew she had fainted from using too much blood, though he couldn't understand why she had gone that far just for a wall. Then Yun revealed that this house belonged to Kang's grandmother, who had lost both her grandma and younger brother by a demon while living there, and had barely survived on her own by absorbing Demon's ability, which was how she gained her abilities. Maru now understood why she acted that way and seemed so scared. Yosak said that at least for now the house had stopped shrinking, but they would have to find a way out soon before they ran out of room, as shown by the small piece Kang had torn torn from the wall. Jung then declared slow and steady wins the race, and sometime later, the sounds of attacks echoed through the forest, while Xiangwu managed to carve out a tiny hole with his knife and a billion strikes, though everyone had already used up all their energy and couldn't do anything else. A knife then fell on Maru's lap, and Xiangwu said it was his turn, getting up with his arm still in bad shape from his first effort, but just as he was about to begin, Kang snatched the knife from his hand and said she would do it herself. He asked her to rest a little longer, but Kang insisted she was fine. She went to the wall and began scraping it, and one of the boys commented that he had heard this was her grandmother's house and found it strange that such an abandoned place was so clean, so she must have been taking care of it. She explained it was because she had been waiting for the day the demon that killed her family would return, and Maru didn't understand how she knew the creature would come back one day. She then explained that the demon from that time was completely different. A creature with a feminine silhouette emerged from the gate that very moment, scaring her so much that she couldn't move. When she looked to the side, another one was approaching. This one had a masculine build with eyes and a focused look and intelligence, as if it had a purpose beyond simple killing. She mentioned that if the prophecy came true, that creature would appear again, and now Maru understood why she was part of this island's team despite being a level 7 user. She asked if he was disappointed that her reason was something cliched, but Maru replied that, no, it is Enos better than mine. I'm here because he couldn't escape and because the salary was good. She continued hitting the wall, saying that if that was the case, soon enough he'd be in Seoul since the salary there was even better, and when he asked how she knew, she explained that she had seen Jang talking to him that day. Just as she was about to explain why she was sure he'd do a great job, suddenly the whole place started moving again as everyone screamed for them to head for the hallway and escape the area. Everybody started to run. During the chaos, Maru was curious about what she was going to say. The next morning, the house had already shrunk to half its original size. Everyone was exhausted, worn down by endless stress, wondering when this nightmare would end. Yosok said their only chance of survival now was the leader, but when is he coming? While the others were struggling to hold on, Kim Yak was still peacefully asleep, as if none of it concerned him. Maru, already fed up, pointed out how unfair it was that everyone was doing their best to escape while that guy wasn't even awake yet. But that's when everything started shaking again. Maru quickly said they needed to move Kim Yak from the hallway, but when they looked at him, he was already standing up, covered in fungus, looking like some kind of ghost. Everyone was shocked and asked what was going on with him. Kim Yak calmly said that now was the perfect time. Suddenly, the door burst open and the demon came dashing out, desperate and also covered in mold. Everyone turned to Kim Yak, yelling at him and demanding to know what he did. He simply explained that he had infected the demon with a mold fungus through to keyhole, but it took a long time to spread, and just like that, the atmosphere shifted. Everyone began clapping and praising him, calling him a genius for pulling that off. He looked a little embarrassed, but Xianwu and Kang quickly brought everyone back to reality, reminding them they hadn't won yet. The demon was standing there in front of them, crying, until suddenly something started emerging from its back. A swarm of creepy creatures staring at them like predators. Turns out, the hermit demon wasn't so alone after all. That's when Maru realized the real danger had just begun. All the smaller demons leaped toward them at once. A strange red thread extended from the main demon's back. Kang ordered Yosok to hide everyone quickly and then activate his zero presence ability, which practically made him invisible. She moved through the swarm, slicing up demons one by one, but the narrow hallway made things tough. Her sword kept getting stuck in the walls. As soon as that happened, one of the creatures started crawling along her blade, coming straight for her. Just when it seemed like she'd get hit, Maru rushed in and bit the creature's neck. As he was being overwhelmed and devoured, he still managed to stretch his hand upward and clenched it hard. The ceiling started to lower. The Yosok freaked out, shouting that they were all going to die, but Maru shouted back, "No," and revealed the true power of his mirror ability. With it, he forced the ceiling to stop. His friends cheered him on, calling him incredible, but the monsters kept swarming. Then, one of the demon's heads exploded. Xianwu had broken a pinky finger and landed a surprise attack. He told Maru to stay hidden behind the barrier since he was still technically a level 1 user. Maru wanted to warn him, but it was already too late. Xianwu was bitten on the shoulder, arm, and stomach. A bunch of creatures swarmed him. Suddenly, something massive and white stabbed through the demons. It was Yun's little spider, now transformed into a giant beast. She stood still, eyes closed, clearly controlling the creature. Meanwhile, Kang and Xianwu were cutting through the the monsters like professionals. Inside the barrier, Maru and Yosok exchanged glances, teasing each other while also praising their friends, admitting they really were trying their best out there, even if they looked dumb doing it. At the same time, Yoon wondered why the monsters were endlessly pouring out of that cursed room. The moment Maru heard that, he sprinted off, yelling that he'd take care of it. Kang and Simu cleared a path for him, and he dove through the chaos, falling into the heart of the house. Behind all the creatures, the real demon was crouched, unharmed. That's when Maru realized the truth. This bastard hadn't even been fighting, he was just sending out clones. Every time one of the heads got hit, a new one was born. So Maru raised his arms and decided, if that's the case, then fine, he'd bring the ceiling down on it. He triggered his mirror ability to crush the whole room, but the ceiling started dropping way too fast. He tried to run, but couldn't make it in time. Fortunately, his friends reached out and Seon-woo pulled him to safety just in time. Outside, everyone celebrated. They cheered for Maru's mirror ability, calling it amazing. Kang, however, was quiet, thinking back to a memory with her grandmother, mother, and brother in that same house. Maru noticed and gently deactivated his power. No need to keep it running now that the monster was gone. He walked up to the demon's corpse and began devouring it. The others were confused about what he was doing, but Maru had already eaten many monsters before. He knew how important it was to absorb powers quickly, while the golden dust was still in the air. With that, he gained another ability and started pushing the walls back to restore the house. But using that power consumed too much golden dust, and eventually he couldn't move the walls anymore. Kang grabbed his arm, told him it was okay, and thanked him. What he did was enough. The drawing on the wall had reappeared. That meant they succeeded. Back at the office, Dokman came in all happy and excited, saying something good was happening today. He even brought the best bread from Busan. But when he walked in, the place was completely empty. He checked the break room, thinking maybe those brats were still knocked out from the fight. That's when he got a call from Jung, who informed him that Maru was called to join headquarters, but refused. Dokman looked over and saw the girls sleeping peacefully, looking beautiful. Meanwhile, Maru was there too, sweaty, stinky, tired, but adjusting to life with the team, little by little. Then suddenly the next scene cut to Maru being completely torn in many pieces, someone screaming at him to run. But hold up, we're jumping back 7 hours, classic spoiler. Earlier that day, Maru was dying from lack of sleep. He complained about how hard it was to earn money like this. While walking to work, a fancy Porsche drove by, and of course it was Seon-woo, the filthy rich bastard. Maru remembered how he saved his life and shamelessly tried to ask for a ride, but Seon-woo just sped off. The Yosok appeared, jealous as ever, saying it was weird for a government worker to drive something like that. Maru agreed and said Seon-woo's just a weird guy. Then Yosok chimed in, saying it didn't matter how rich, tall, or handsome he was, Seon-woo had a trash personality and probably didn't have any friends. The two laughed, but Maru started thinking about how he didn't have any of those things either. No money, no friends, so he was just losing all around. When they got to the office, Jakman opened his arms and praised Maru as an amazing level 7 ability user. Maru pushed him away, totally confused. Yoon explained that since he had devoured a level 7 demon, he now had level 7 powers. Then Leader patted him on the back, saying they always thought he was dead weight, but now he was finally good for something. Maru blushed, surprised by how good it felt to be recognized. Yoseok added that Maru's talent was incredible. He might be the first person who could keep growing like this. Suddenly, Seon-woo slammed the table, saying the workday had started and everyone needed to shut up. Maru could tell this guy hated him, probably because he'd embarrassed him back when he was level 1. Now he had to deal with the guy's resentment. Then Miss Gorgeous tapped him on the shoulder and asked to talk privately. Outside on a bench, she thanked him for what he did at her grandmother's house. Maru awkwardly said it was only natural, they were a team, but then she looked at him and said, "When I saw you, I felt." Maru blushed hard, thinking she was going to confess something romantic, but nope. She was just suspicious that he wasn't a level 1 user because his ability to devour demons is extraordinary. He remembered the first chubby demon he bit and was sure that one was level 1. Then Kong asked if he saw any demons before he started working at the com. Any. Maru thought hard. He'd never forget something like that, right? But then he noticed smoke behind her and suddenly had a panic attack. A black claw appeared. A wolf-like humanoid stared at him, drooling. His heart pounded and he dropped his drink. She asked what was wrong and he tried to brush it off, saying sometimes his mind just makes up scary stuff. But she called his bluff, grabbed his hand and told him not to worry. He was safe with her around. God, I wish I was safe too. She was now certain there was something in his past. Then Deokman walked in, teasing them about their little office date. Maru, flustered, denied everything. Kang casually said relationships didn't make sense since the world would end in a year anyway, so I have zero interest. Her words hit harder than any level 10 demon. Maru just collapsed on the bench, emotionally KO'd. Deokman laughed at him while Maru tried to defend himself, but inside, he did feel genuinely sad. Sometime later, Yun said they should check alerts before leaving. Meanwhile, Kang and Maru were climbing the mountains together. Ever since the bench conversation, it felt awkward between them. She reached the meter and started taking notes on the golden dust while Maru stood back, convincing himself there's no time for love when the world might end in a year. Both of them were deep in thought, focused on how to stop these demons once and for all. But for this, we have to communicate with the demons. But then the phone rang. It was a distress call from Zone 3. Yosek's voice came through, reporting that Leader Dokman had already been defeated, and the worst part, the creature was still alive and heading towards them. He warns them to be careful with their words, but the line abruptly cuts off, leaving everyone on edge. Kang is visibly alarmed, pointing out how serious this is. Dokman was a level 10 ability user, and even he was no match. Maru, on the other hand, is stunned, not by the situation, but because he had no idea that Lazy Guy was a level 10 user to begin with. As they speak, golden dust begins to appear in the air, and Kang warns him to be extremely cautious. The demon approaching them is unlike any they've faced before because he is strong enough to take down a level 10 ability user. Then, through the mist, a thin kimono-wearing creature makes its appearance. With a single blink of its eye, it stuns both Maru and Kang. The creature calmly greets them, saying it's a pleasure to meet humans and requests a conversation, specifically with the one in charge. Maru is completely thrown off. This demon not only talks but speaks just like a human. Kang urges him to stay alert, its language Rakshasa, but the demon continues, claiming it doesn't want to fight and is here only to talk. Maru, curious despite the warning from Yosek to avoid any conversation, decides to proceed anyway, thinking it might be a good opportunity to gain intel. He asks the demon where it's from, and the creature responds, Abyss. Maru has no clue where that is, so the demon explains that it's the deepest part of hell, a place of eternal darkness where sinners are imprisoned and forced to fight endlessly. Slowly, Maru begins to put the pieces together. The demon confirms every single demon here was once human. This realization hits him like a truck. He remembers all the times he's consumed demon meat, which now means he's been eating people. Sickened, he starts vomiting. The demon, unfazed, says it's its turn to ask a question. Maru hesitates, frozen, but Kang grabs his arm and urges him to stop talking. Despite the demon's peaceful tone, she's sure this is the same one that defeated Deckman. She prepares a massive spear, but the demon gently tells her to put it down, saying it dislikes violence. She doesn't hesitate and rush towards the demon with the spear, but in an instant the demon casually redirects it with a finger, and it then tells her coldly that her brother's death was her fault for being too weak to protect him. A traumatic memory hits her brother shielding her with his body, taking the fatal blow, telling her to run before collapsing in her arms. She had sobbed uncontrollably. Now, standing in front of the creature that somehow knows all of this, she's paralyzed. The demon accuses her again, saying it was her job as the older brother to protect her brother. Maru catches her as she falls, but then realizes, where did all this blood come from? He hadn't even noticed anything happening. The demon clearly possesses some kind of psychological attack, and Maru knows he's screwed. He has the weakest mental state out of all of them. The demon turns its attention to Maru again, saying they can continue talking and leave Kang out of it. But Maru yells back, ordering the monster to shut its filthy mouth. He launches himself forward and smashes the demon into a rock with a powerful punch. Maru jumps on the demon. The demon chuckles, wiping blood off its mouth, and mocks him, asking why he's so angry when he was just rejected by the girl. Maru freezes. And got hit on heart. That's not right. I have never been rejected. So why does that comment hurt so much? He tries to rationalize it. He has no romantic feelings for her. She's just a strong, respectable senior. But as he looks at her, who is still collapsed and traumatized by her past memories, the pain in his chest worsens. He coughs up blood. The demon moves closer, picking up a rock, saying it despises emotions. Emotions are for the weak. Even back when it was human, it never felt anything. It sneers at Maru's silence, asking if a cat got his tongue. Now Maru understands. This is how even someone as strong as Deokman lost. The demon tosses the rock high into the air, preparing to end Maru's life right then. As the rock comes down, Maru braces himself, thinking, unless someone completely emotionless appears, he's done for. Suddenly, the demon jerks violently. It's been hit. The emotionless bastard finally arrives. Xianwu appears, cold and unimpressed, demanding to know why a level 1 like Maru is lying on the ground. Maru, bloody and weak, grins. He's never been so happy to see a sociopath, but Xianwu is already annoyed, asking why Maru is smiling like a fool. The demon murmurs, intrigued. That one actually ticked up a little. Xianwu, surprised to see demon still alive, it adjusts its dislocated jaw and says breaking its vocal cords won't be easy, especially for such weaklings. Our both boys started to get annoyed. It continues taunting, but now both Maru and Xianwu are ready to destroy this loudmouth. Maru warns him this demon uses psychological attacks, but Xianwu dismisses him and prepares to show how it's done, which annoy Maru as always. As Xianwu starts cracking his fingers, each snap shatters a part of the demon's body. It mocks him, saying this won't be enough to earn his father's approval. But Xianwu remains unfazed, emotionless. The demon continues, revealing Xianwu's dark past. His mother took her own life after being abandoned by his father, and he was left behind. Maru had no idea about any of this. He assumed Xianwu was just some spoiled brat. Even someone as cold as Xianwu shouldn't be able to handle such trauma. Yet he just laughs. He says it's not his fault. His mother was just weak. He then attacks the demon's throat, declaring that only the strong survive. The demon retorts that if that's true, Xianwu won't last long. He's weaker than Maru. That jab hits its mark. Xianwu falters, clearly affected, but Maru jumps in and blocks the next strike. He says he's figured it out. The demon disorients with psychological attacks, then fires a blade from its mouth. Just then, Kang swoops in and slices the demon's tongue, causing it to shriek in pain. She checks on Maru, and he's struck again by how amazing she is. Damn, he's falling for her even more. But he snaps out of it, reminding himself to focus on the fight. He grabs Sanwu and tries to shake him out of his daze. That comment about being weaker than Maru had really hit him hard. Meanwhile, Maru is weirdly proud. Someone like Sanwu being jealous of him? He steps on Sanwu and tells him to get over it. Being weaker than him isn't the end of the world. He might be lame, but right now, Sanwu is even cooler than him. Sanwu finally snaps out of it, scoffing and saying, obviously, you're still a trash level 1. The three of them face the monster, knowing they have to finish this before nightfall. Maru is worried if he gets too close, the demon might use its tongue again, but Kang says this is their best shot. Without its tongue, it can't use its strongest weapon. Xianwu argues that Kang is in no condition to fight. Her wound is still open, and it seems like demons attack do not heals. Maru makes a move. He bolts to the side, waving and shouting at the demon, calling it an idiot, trying to bait it. But the creature turns, exactly what Maru wanted. He yells for Xianwu to protect Kang while he uses his power, but Xianwu is confused. Maru's power only works in enclosed spaces. Kang freaks out and tells Xianwu to help before Maru gets himself killed. Maru sprints, the demon chasing after him with its flailing tongue. He desperately searches for an enclosed space but finds nothing but open fields. Then a car screeches to a halt beside him. It's Seonwoo. He tells Maru to get in. Without hesitation, Maru leaps through the sunroof, complaining about the rich kid risking his expensive ride. The demon lunges, aiming an attack at the vehicle, but this was part of the plan. The car becomes the enclosed space. Maru opens the door, baiting the demon inside. Seonwoo traps it, locking it in, and Maru escaped from car in an instant. It seems like they've done it, but just like at the start, the scene replays. Maru is suddenly sliced into 36 pieces. The demon crawls out of the wreckage, grinning, thinking it's won. But then, a hand appears, grabs its neck. He was Maru. The creature looked back at Maru and understood something, and that's when the truth of what really happened was revealed. The moment Maru got into the car, he had already activated his clone ability. Multiple versions of Maru appeared and launched a coordinated attack on the monster, grabbing it from all sides and dragging it back into the car. As they overwhelmed it, they began devouring it alive. The monster screeched in agony, flailing, desperately trying to find the real Maru, who who had hidden himself in the back seat. Outside, Xiangwu was banging on the window, yelling for the bastard to come out, clueless to what was happening inside. Kang arrived, asking where Maru was, only to hear the monster cry out that all of this wasn't necessary. It pleaded for a conversation instead of a fight and said, "Maru, really this? Naturally violent, just like his father?" And right there, a psychological attack hit. Maru was suddenly thrown into a traumatic memory. Tears welled up in his eyes as his father grabbed him by the collar and screamed at him to stop. Stop what exactly? The monster's voice echoed in his mind, asking how it felt when his father disappeared without a word. Maru couldn't take it anymore. He slammed his hands over his ears so hard that blood started gushing out. He shouted back, telling the monster to quit playing with people's emotions. The creature kept trying to mouth words to him, hoping he'd lip read, but Maru refused. He snarled that if he couldn't hear it, the attack meant nothing. He clenched his fist, and the ceiling began collapsing. Outside the car, Kang tried to stop what was happening, but Xianwu grabbed her and told her there was nothing they could do. The vehicle kept shaking violently. Inside, Maru had turned into a blood-red puddle. At that moment, Kang noticed something. The golden dust in the air was vanishing. As the car lay flattened, she stepped forward and insisted they had to save him. Xianwu, thinking it was pointless, said the kid had been dead for a while, but Kang didn't give up. She declared that as long as even a little golden dust remained, there was still hope. She tore apart pieces of the car with her bare hands, yelling at Maru, demanding to know why he crushed himself like that. That's when they heard someone knocking from inside the wreckage. Sionwu immediately jumped in to help, also baffled about why Maru would do such a thing. Meanwhile, Maru found himself in a place far removed from reality. He couldn't feel his body and had no idea where he was, but he hoped he at least managed to take down that loudmouth monster. He tried recalling the creature's final mouth movements, something about how the abyss is looking for you and that he needed to remember the call. As he began to lose consciousness again, he thought, what the hell is this call? Suddenly the monster screamed at him to wake up. His eyes snapped open and he found himself in a red, warped space. His clothes began moving on their own, and then, horrifyingly, hands emerged from his stomach. The same black werewolf-like demon began crawling out of him. Shocked and broken, Maru demanded to know what that thing was. The monster calmly asked, "Don't you remember?" Flashback. A young Maru, terrified, was with his father when they first encountered the creature. The monster had locked eyes with both of them. Little Maru, sensing danger, told his father something was wrong and that they should run. But his father grabbed him roughly and said, "No, from now on he is gonna fight it." Maru begged for a reason, tears streaming down his face. That's when his father revealed their true motive: to obtain that monster's unique power. That the only way to get to the abyss. He dragged his crying son forward, and then, shockingly, he threw Maru directly in front of the beast. The monster raised its head, and it looked like it was going to devour him. Back in the present, Sionwu was literally breaking his fingers while trying to rip apart what little was left of the car. He was using the last remnants of golden dust to dig deep, and finally, at the very bottom, he found Maru. His body was blood-soaked, tightly wrapped like a vacuum-sealed corpse. Sionwu solemnly said the dust was gone. Maru couldn't be saved. But Kang grabbed Maru's hand anyway, begging him to respond, and that's when his finger twitched. They stared in disbelief. Somehow, Maru was generating golden dust on his own, just like a demon. His broken bones began twisting, spinning, healing. He stood up, almost fully recovered, leaving Kang and Sonwoo horrified. But just moments later, he collapsed again, unconscious. Sionwoo, confused and furious, started stomping on him, yelling, demanding to know what the hell he was. Maru could barely speak, groaning in pain. Sionwoo grabbed him by the collar and screamed, how the hell was he producing golden dust when the only ability he had was gluttony? That's when it hit Maru like a freight train. Gluttony wasn't the first power he'd ever had. It was that monster's power, the one his father forced him to absorb as a child. And even now, he had no idea why. He collapsed again, overwhelmed by the realization, having a full-blown panic attack. Kang stepped in, telling Seonwoo to back off. Maru was still recovering and didn't even realize he was producing golden dust. She suggested they keep it secret between the three of them, but Seonwoo refused. He argued that keeping quiet about a monster like Maru was dangerous. Headquarters needed to know. Kang countered that Maru didn't even seem aware of what he was, and she believed in him. She was sure he wouldn't become dangerous. Seonwoo scoffed, said he didn't care anymore, and walked off. That's when Kang realized the full weight of the situation situation had now fallen on her shoulders. On the train home, Maru was feeling drained, emotionally and physically, still trying to figure out what the hell this gluttony power was, and more importantly, what that monster really was. Is he becoming like it? Out of nowhere, the monster appeared in his reflection, watching him from the train window. Maru jolted in fear. Sitting next to him was Yosak, who asked him to stop acting like a freak. Maru held his chest, saying he saw something strange, and asked if Yosak wanted to hear about his problems. Without missing a beat, Yosak told him no, he didn't care one bit. It was better if they just stayed out of each other's lives. Maru sank back, dejected. No one in that office cared about him. Meanwhile, the Yosak from earlier got a call from a guy named Wuju. He asked why something had happened. Cut to another scene. Wuju was asking someone to leave the Gyeong Mountain team and file for a transfer. A chubby guy sitting with them hesitated but finally agreed. Then, curiously, he asked who the person next to was. Turns out it was none other than Han Maru. Even Yosak was shocked. When did he get invited? He explained he'd been having a hard time in life and didn't want to be alone, and it's his first time to meet member of another civil servant team. He asked Wuju why he wanted to leave that team. Wuju simply said there were too many arguments and conflicts. Yosak scoffed, saying it wasn't conflict, it was flat-out bullying. Maru, curious, asked if this was that legendary office bullying he'd heard about. The Yosak laughed, saying Wuju was too nice. He should have just gone wild and stormed out like he did. Maru said, how you know that much? You were in that team too. That's when Wuju revealed something shocking. Yosak was the one who had been beaten and bullied the most in that team. Maru started getting nervous. What kind of people were they dealing with? Yosak explained it plainly. Those people are more dangerous than the demons they were assigned to exterminate. And right then, Maru remembered what Sionwoo said, that Maru might one day become more dangerous than a monster. Now, he was left wondering, was he already turning into one of them? On the way back home, Maru was carrying the chubby guy along, who kept asking if they were still far, but before he could answer, they had already arrived. Ruju's parents' noodle shop. Yosak told Han Maru that we will just leave Wuju to his parents. The moment Yosak entered in shop, his laid eyes on the gang of guys sitting there. His expression completely changed. Frozen in place, he turned around to escape but crashed into someone else. That's when a 3.98-meter long man appeared, claiming he was looking for Wuju, but instead he found Yosak too. Without a second thought, the massive man kicked Yosak in the chest and stomped on his head, shouting that if he was going to transfer out, he should have done it quietly. His biggest mistake? Setting the place on fire before leaving. The brutal stomping continued until Maru grabbed the attacker's arm and told him to stop. The man turned, glaring, and asked, "Who the hell are you?" With glowing eyes, Maru calmly said he worked with Yosak at the office. The brute laughed, saying he must be from Ganghwa Island, home of idiots and losers. Then, without warning, he smashed Maru in the face, knocking him to the floor, and went back to beating up poor Yosak. The guy had been beaten worse by humans than that demon back in the haunted house. Maru got up, trying to pretend his nose wasn't bleeding, but the bitter taste of golden dust filled his mouth. The whole place began turning golden as his anger boiled. Meanwhile, the brute kept blaming Yosak for the months of rehab he'd been forced into, throwing punch after punch. Yosak was helpless, choking and crying as other Psycho team members stood around watching, muttering they didn't expect him to transfer to Ganghwa Island. Just then, the door swung open. Maru was full of anger. From behind, a massive foot flew in and slammed into the brute's face, smashing his skull into the wall. He collapsed like a rag doll. Everyone turned in shock. It was Sionwoo. Calmly, he said he too was from that weak-ass Ganghwa Island team. Then he approached Maru and warned him, if he kept doing reckless stuff, he'd end up killed by him. Maru quickly shoved the dust away and asked why Sionwoo was even here. He explained he followed Maru from the train just in case trouble happened. Turns out, Kangchana had also been following Maru secretly, and now she too arrived at the shop. Furious, she stormed in, demanding to know what was going on. She checked on the beaten Yosak, asking if he was okay. She said, "I don't know why you attacked our team, but we will taking him out of here." But then, the military huntress spoke up, pointing out that her own friend was half dead too, so no one was going anywhere just yet. The nerdy, trembling guy muttered that Yosak had caused him plenty of trouble too, and he was here to settle the score. Kang scoffed, saying it looked like they all wanted another round of discipline by the headquarters. Huntress said that this time Yule found guilty. Mulehead, the brute from earlier, stood back up, glaring at Seonwoo and growled, "You are not leaving here alive." He charged at Seonwoo, who smirked back, ready for a fight. Maru stood there, overwhelmed, unsure of what to do. He wanted to help, but Kang told him to stay out of it. If he transformed, things could spiral fast. As she walked past, she saw a broom, then she opened her jacket slightly, ready to fight. And now it was Mulehead's turn to get clobbered. A guy stormed in with a chair, yelling, "Today was the day Seonwoo would die." But bam, out of nowhere, a cannon strike smashed into his ribs. It was Kang, armed with nothing but a broom. She disabled the first guy, then slammed the second in the shin. The nerd was rolling in pain, and she warned them to stop before things got worse. And an older man walked in, asking why they were fighting civilians. He'd just stepped out of the bathroom. Kang asked who he was, and he introduced himself as the leader of Gyeang Mountain Team. Kang looked relieved and tried to explain, but damn, if there was a prize for worst villain, this guy won it. Without warning, he punched Kang straight in the face. A moment of silence. "Dude, you don't do that. Like, are you asking to die?" Even I was ready to jump into the story and destroy this bastard. He even had the guts to say she wasn't a civilian and shouldn't have hit his popol. Then he turned to Yosok, smirked, and said it had been a while. Maru, seeing Kang unconscious and beaten, couldn't take it anymore and started to produce golden dust. Seonwoo tried to stop him, saying it was crazy, but it was too late. Maru charged at the leader. The leader didn't even flinch until Maru punched him straight in the face, blasting his head across the room. Maru stood there, golden dust swirling around him, breathing heavily. Everyone froze. Seonwoo knew immediately things had just gotten so much worse. Maru rushed over to Kang, helping her up. She weakly whispered she had warned him not to use the dust, but Maru apologized. He was just too furious after seeing her get hurt. Meanwhile, the lunatic leader started laughing, also absorbing golden dust. He found it fascinating. A human, not a demon, who could release the... He stepped close to Maru and asked if he wanted to join his team. Maru glared and rejected him on the spot, calling his group worse than demons. The leader shrugged, saying that was a shame, because now he wasn't letting Maru walk away. There was plenty of golden dust, so he suggested they settle this with a fight. Gyeang Mountain Team versus Ganghwa Mountain Team. Since fighting only demons got boring sometimes. The leader, calm as ever, sat down, chewing on something that looked like seaweed, and announced the start of a 3-on-3 battle. If Gu Mountain won, they'd get to keep Yosok. If Ganghwa Mountain won, they'd forget everything about the office incident that Yosok did to them, the demon-powered boy, all of it. After all, if headquarters found out about Maru, he'd be hunted. Kang, not even tried a reasoning with a captain who is more psycho than his team members. Seonwoo wondered aloud why they didn't just take him out directly. Kang said it would cause chaos, people would protect him, and an all-out war would break loose. So the leader framed it as a friendly competition, saying no killing allowed, because apparently killing was for bad people. Jeongwoo and Maru exchanged confused looks, realizing this dude was totally insane. Hypocrite. Jeongwoo put on his gloves and said he'd been waiting to fight a human with powers. Maru called him nuts, but Kang said to just fight for now. They needed time. When asked why, she simply said they'd understand later. But firstly, who wants to go first? Seongwoo Yu stepped forward, and from the other side, a trembling guy took off his glasses. He uses his demon power and explained that Seonwoo's ability allowed him to break his body to fight, and stepped back, letting a 5-meter giant enter the ring. The giant attacked with branch-like structures, screaming that he'd rip Seonwoo apart, but Seonwoo broke a finger, shattered the attack with a casual flick, and asked if that was it. Of course not. The guy's broken body parts were still under his control. With that, he started to trap Seonwoo and transformed him into a coffin, trapping Seonwoo. With no way to move, the enemy raised a fist aiming for Seonwoo's eye, but Seonwoo just grinned, bit down, cracked a tooth, and shattered the entire attack. In a blink, he grabbed the guy's neck and whispered, "Now you're going to learn what it's like to have your vertebra snapped." The dude's legs gave out instantly. Seon-woo told him not to pass out yet. The next move was a neck fracture. The guy was foaming at the mouth when Kang rushed in and warned Seon-woo not to kill him. Round 1 over. The 3-meter brute got wrecked, vomiting on the floor. The moment the last match ended, the leader stepped up and asked if they could proceed to the next fight. Kang, still recovering, admitted that she had overdone it and barely managed to stall for time, but without hesitation, she stepped forward, ready to face the next opponent. The nerd boy studied her carefully, already knowing she had the ability to turn her blood into blades, so he told Hunter Girl to fight because she is perfect match for her. A fight between two attractive girls never had a loser, but things took a wild turn when the opponent ripped out 2 chunks of her own ribs. Prepping herself for battle, she had bone Rakshasa powers. Kang quickly warned her not to use knives, insisting it was too dangerous, but this new opponent was no ordinary fighter. Bones erupted from her body like an army, and she climbed atop a giant skeletal spider, declaring she didn't care about playing safe. She charged forward like a beast. Kang barely had time to react, forming only a small sword to defend herself before getting rammed straight into ribs by the bone spider. 10 seconds in, Kang was already thinking she couldn't keep up. She slashed back, forcing her opponent to retreat, but the assault continued. Kang tried to land a light cut and get away, but the minor wound turned into a massive pool of blood. The opposing team panicked, shouting for Officer Park. Kang, clearly shaken, apologized, saying she was trying to hold back but still couldn't control her power fully. Despite the chaos, Seon-woo and Maru praised her. She had done her job and bought them precious time, flat 10 seconds low. Embarrassed, she admitted it was her first real fight against a human and she used to kill demons. As the opposing team began to leave, one guy with a strange eye ability stood frozen, stunned by the madness he'd just witnessed. He had heard rumors that Ganghwa Island was full of weaklings, but what he saw was something else entirely. Their leader stayed behind, stating that only Han Maru was left. Kang pointed out that the score was already 2-1, so they'd technically won, but the guy casually revealed that this ridiculous competition had only happened so he could witness Maru's powers firsthand. And of course, his own fight was the most important one. It would be worth 3 points. Kang tried to reject the offer, but the fool himself, Maru, stepped forward and accepted, saying 3 points it is, but he wanted to fight the leader himself. Everyone thought he was insane, but the leader simply smiled. Meanwhile, the trembling nerd activated his ability to check Maru's power. The moment he did, the demon inside his eye stared back, tearing his eye with his claws, and the guy immediately started bleeding. Terrified, he broke into a cold sweat, whispering if that thing was even human. Maru, on the other hand, stood silently. The leader approached Maru, claiming that challenging the judge was cheating. He'd rather send out his best fighter. Then he suddenly dragged out poor Wu, the chubby guy, and threw him into the fight. Wu was confused and scared, asking about his parents. The leader smiled cruelly, saying they were safe at home so long as Wu obeyed. He shoved him forward and told him to fight. Yosuk shouted for the leader to stop, but he was silenced. Then, standing face to face with Wu, Maru noticed something horrifying. The language demon's head loomed behind Wu, whispering all the things Maru could say to break him. From cruel jabs like "you deserve to die" to psychological attacks like "you can't even look her in the eye." He even saw Wu's memories, him crying, seeing others dumping coffee on Yosuk's head, he trying so hard to hold his powers, but without control, words spilled out of Maru's mouth, his powers forming a blade as he said, "Aren't you happy? At least Yosuk died instead of you." He couldn't stop himself. The tongue formed by his power slashed across Wu's heart. Maru tried to help him, but Wu just whispered, "I'm sorry," before exploding into a venomous burst that started melting Maru's body. He had ability of venom, Rakshasa. His flesh burned and his skin melted, suffering from immense pain as Kang called out for him. But the leader warned her not to interfere. The round wasn't over yet. He walked up to Maru as he lay on the ground, organs melting, mocking him. "You might as well surrender," he said, crouching beside him. But Maru, face half burnt, growled back, "I haven't given up yet." The leader smirked, interested, and told him to show his true power. If he attacked the guy on the ground, he would win by the rule. He lunged forward to punch the leader directly, declaring declaring that if he killed him, the game would be over. But just as he reached him, the leader said, "Unfortunately, that's not going to happen." He grabbed his tie and Star Titan whispered a command, "Follow the rules." He repeated it over and over again, and with it, the entire room was suddenly slammed to the ground. Everyone was pinned down by a crushing force. Sensyeon Wu gasped, struggling to breathe. Even Kang was crushed. Yosok muttered, trying to breathe carefully. This was the leader's ability, gravity. A level 9 gravity Rakshasa ability user who could crush the entire room just by existing, and he increased the room gravity by 8 times. He stood above them all, smiling. "This is such a beautiful sight," he said. Noticing that Maru had somehow recovered, the leader increased the gravity only on him. Maru's ribs snapped like twigs. Leader stated that he must have abilities of a special demon because as much he suffer from pain, the dust get thicker, but Maru kept pushing, remembering the horrific demon that gave him his powers. He started to get up under the intense pressure. He thought about using his language Rakshasa power to break the leader mentally, but there was nothing written on his back, no weaknesses to exploit. The language power didn't even work on him. He is a true psychopath. The leader then casually pulled out a knife, saying he hated being curious and wanted to dissect Maru to understand from where's the dust is coming from. Maybe remove his lungs or throat, but his monologue was cut short as Seon Woo, despite the gravity, broke her own finger to regain control. She shouted for Maru to go. Then she slashed the leader's arm, leapt into the air, very close to land a perfect strike. But the leader immediately activated 20x gravity, slamming everyone back into the ground, suffering in intense pressure. He told them that their blood will not reach to brain and they will faint. Maru called out to Kang, but the leader grabbed the knife from her hand and declared that no one would interrupt them now. "Now it's just me and you." Maru couldn't see a way out. This madman's power grew stronger the more he tortured his victims. Then someone knocked on the door. The leader growled that they were closed, but something blue and sticky began seeping through the floor. Seon Woo touched it, asking what the hell it was. Kang simply smirked and said, "He's finally here." When the match started, she had sent a message to the boss. Now their Hawaiian shirt-wearing savior, Dokman, stood at the door, bleeding from one eye. His ability? The Demon of Darkness. And when something's got darkness in the name, you know it's busted. The dark puddle spread, swallowing everything. Maru felt himself sink into a void. In seconds, all persons sank into darkness, including leader. Maru realized that he couldn't hear, smell, or even feel himself, like he didn't exist. The gravity user tried to comprehend what was happening, but Dokman appeared right behind him and grabbed his throat. Gravity meant nothing here. The man passed out instantly. Dokman then turned to Maru, who was still struggling, and grabbed him by the neck too, knocking him out cold. He calmly pulled 2 eyes from his pocket and popped them back into his sockets. The darkness faded, and they all returned to reality. Dokman muttered that the golden dust had finally stopped. Kang breathed out in relief, saying he had finally arrived, but Dokman wasn't here for small talk. He demanded to know why she and Seonwoo hadn't reported Maru's powers. Kang apologized, but Dokman wasn't having any of it. He was furious as hell. Kang asked that can he deal with the Gyeong team captain, but he said the situation is now out of control. Things were only going to escalate from here. Inside a massive building, everyone's eyes were glued to Maru, who was chained tightly to a chair. He wondered what fate awaited him, sitting in a huge room filled with many chairs, but only 4 people were present. Suddenly, Yu Young spoke up, announcing that from now on he would be in charge of Hen Maru. But Daeokman immediately protested, saying he didn't accept that decision. Maru was surprised, realizing that Daeokman actually held a lot of authority here. Yu Young slammed the table in frustration, accusing Maru of producing yellow dust, which was extremely dangerous because others could see his demonic powers. But Daeokman argued that all this chaos was the fault of that other team full of terrible people, and no one knew that better than Jong. Daeokman insisted that Jong should take responsibility for that psychopath-filled squad. Yu Young warned Daeokman that he was pushing things too far, but Jong simply told her to be quiet. Jong honestly didn't care about the personalities of the people working under him. Whether they were from Gyeong Mountain, treated by a lunatic, as long as they fought demons, it didn't matter. In fact, those lunatics were better than the Ganghwa island leader, who had a level 10 ability but hated fighting. Deokman accepted the criticism and said them the same shoe apply to Maru because his is essential to fight against demons, and his Sher Atter is fine not like that psychopath. Plus, his two close friends were the ones best suited to keep his personality in check. Deok then asked if Deokman would take full responsibility if Maru ever caused a disaster. Without hesitation, Deokman stood up, said yes, and headed toward the door. As everyone left, Jong called out, telling Shanwoo to stay behind. Looked like the poor guy was about to get a serious father-son talk. Outside, Maru asked how it went and even grumbled about Deokman's ridiculous Hawaiian tie. Deokman simply told them that they would be receiving disciplinary actions for 3 months and salary cuts. Maru's heart sank. His brief fun was officially over. He cried dramatically, but Deokman warned him that he was lucky this time because of the other island's screw-up. If Maru made another mistake like this, there would be no saving him. Deokman mentioned that Director Jong was terrifying more than even looks, and Maru shivered just thinking about it. Meanwhile, inside, Jong asked Shanwoo if he could kill Maru if he ever lost control. Shanwoo hesitated, turned his head awkwardly, and said no. He stood up and declared that if that was all Jong had to say after 20 years, he was leaving. But Jong ordered him to sit down. This wasn't a conversation between a father and son, it was a command from the director. Han Maru wasn't an ordinary ability user anymore. Someone who could produce yellow dust was practically a demon. They had to be careful. Maybe Maru was the real enemy. The scene changed to a messy house that would serve as the new dorm for Maru. Clothes were thrown everywhere and empty soda bottles rolled around. Maru entered just as the team leader declared that from now on, Maru would live there with them. Maru was already freaking out when he saw where the guy's hand was resting and asked if he really had to stay there. Deokman, scratching his balls, and confirmed it was the only way to keep an eye on him and prevent any trouble. Then Deokman placed a hand on Maru's shoulder, triggering instant trauma for our boy. With a big grin, Deokman said they would now be spending 24 hours very close together. Back at base, Yum was glaring at Maru like she was about to burn him alive. Twisting awkwardly, Maru asked if she had something to say. She coldly warned him that if he started leaking yellow dust here, he'd die. Yosik suggested they stop messing with the kid, warning that this exact type of stress was what triggered the dust. Maru stood there, furious, unsure who he hated more. When he sighed deeply, Kim immediately asked if he had just started releasing dust. Then Deokman grabbed his face, trying to check. Yeah, it was a weird scene that looked like it came straight out of certain shady manga. Walking through the hallways, Maru was boiling inside. He was being treated like a ticking time bomb. Along the way, he bumped into Shanwoo, who was still troubled by Jong's warning about Maru being dangerous and even might be wolf in the dekin of sheep. Maru, pissed off, asked if Shanwoo was also here to tell him not to cause trouble, but Shanwoo just shrugged, saying he didn't care about him. That only pissed Maru off even more. This guy always knew how to get under his skin. That's when Maru noticed Wooju had been transferred to their office. Kang said that since it was his first day, he could ask him anything. Kang turned to Maru and said she wanted to check his eyes. Maru stiffened up, protesting that he wasn't leaking dust. Up close, Kang gently told him not to be angry. The team was just nervous because if another disaster happened, they wouldn't be able to protect the him. Maru stood there, stiff and awkward, muttering that he understood. Sitting alone in the office, Maru felt miserable. He had to work harder than everyone else. But Deokman's solution was simply not sending him on any missions. He was sulking when suddenly 2 guys from headquarters barged in. Maru turned to ask who they were, and bam, one of them sucker punched him. Damn, that was rough, and started beating him up. The guy grabbed him by the collar, demanding that he release the yellow dust. Maru was about to fight back, but he remembered what Kang had said. He couldn't cause any more trouble, so he held himself back. That guy kept threatening him, saying he'd crush his skull if he didn't release the dust. But then, out of nowhere, Baldy slammed his fist into Wick's head, fainting him immediately. Baldy helped Maru up, apologizing, saying Wick was just a bit ignorant. They were the double standards duo from headquarters. Maru immediately asked if they were here to test him again. Baldy explained that Weg was actually Maru's biggest fan. He even called Maru King Maru. Embarrassed, Maru asked what that even even meant, but Weg was already massaging his shoulders, praising him, and saying he was even greater than the director himself. Weg gave Maru a big thumbs up, declaring he would become the greatest ability user ever. Maru was left awkwardly flustered after hearing all that. Some time later, as everyone was heading home, Maru noticed Wu standing nearby, looking troubled. Maru asked if something was wrong, and the scene shifted to a dust meter, which wasn't working properly. Wu apologized, admitting he messed it up, but hadn't told anyone because he didn't want to be blamed. Maru reassured him that this place was different. No one would mistreat him over a small mistake. Luon thanked him for last time, asking what Maru had said, but Maru brushed it off, just saying he'd be fine here. That's when they both noticed something strange. Yellow dust was floating around. Wu immediately panicked, asking if Maru was releasing it, but Maru denied it. Looking to the side, they spotted a kid demon with weird orbs on his chest. Wu freaked out, saying they needed to report it immediately, but they can't because he broke the alert. But Maru guessed that with this much dust, it was probably just a level 1 monster. Remembering wise words about being the best ability user, Maru charged at the creature, shouting that he was King Maru, and bit right into its neck without mercy. The monster collapsed instantly. Wu praised him for killing it in one hit, but things weren't that simple. Inside the monster's corpse, another one started to emerge, and one of the orbs disappeared. Not only that, but judging by the dust levels, it had evolved into a level 2 demon. A while later, Maru was exhausted. Every time he killed the creature, it just got stronger. Wu pointed out that the dust level had already reached a level 5 monster. He ran off, saying they needed to call the others, but Maru yelled at him to look behind. The monster had already launched itself at Wu, ready to rip him apart. At the last second, Wu detonated his venom ability, melting the creature into goo. But again, the body hardened and another stronger one emerged. This was an evolving Rakshasa, and terrifyingly, the monster still had 4 stones left on its chest. The situation had just begun spiraling out of control. The monster had already reached level 6. And Maru had no idea how they were supposed to handle it. That's when our genius boy finally realized there were still 4 stones left. If the math was right, 6 plus 4 equaled 10, and that meant they were completely screwed. Maru needed to keep Wuju away, out of there immediately. Maru said he would distract the monster while Wuju called for backup, but Wuju yelled that there was no way Maru could take on a level 6 monster alone. But Maru, fired up with courage, declared that he is King Maru and stronger than Wuju thought. Without hesitation, he leapt at the creature, imagining that since he had eaten it once before, he should have similar abilities now. He threw a punch, but the creature dodged way faster than he expected, landing a direct hit to Maru's stomach that sent him crashing to the ground, completely immobilized. Before Maru could react, the monster slammed him with a full-on UFC-style ground and pound. Maru wasn't lasting at all. Even though he had the same ores on his chest, he couldn't understand why he wasn't evolving. Apparently his regeneration was too fast, which nullified the effects of the ability. As the monster was about to crush his head, Maru screamed, telling it to hit him harder. Wuju panicked and yelled for him to be careful, but Maru just told him to stay back. Of course, the side character had to mess things up. Wuju used his venom ability. It stopped the monster's attack for a moment, but the creature was completely unfazed. Before Wuju had a chance to run, the beast slammed him in the head and smashed him into the ground, the way Maru should have been crushed. Seizing the moment, Maru wrapped his arms around the beast from behind and sank his teeth straight into its neck. Once again, the creature's body started hardening. Maru quickly grabbed Wu's body, asking if he was okay. Wuju weakly asked why Maru hadn't run, and Wuju told him it was because this whole situation was his fault. He couldn't just run away. Wuju, almost unconscious, told Maru to flee and call for reinforcements before passing out. Maru already knew that if he left Wuju there, with his weak recovery ability, the boy would die. No one was coming. It was up to him to handle this monster alone. There were only 3 more evolutions left before it reached its final form, and he had to kill it before it emerged from its cocoon. Maru shattered the creature's hardened armor, and inside, he saw a red being, part of the evolution process. He lunged in immediately to bite it and kill the threat before it could fully develop. But suddenly, a giant hand shot out from inside and punched a crater into Maru's chest and made a hole damn, now this was a monster. The thing was built like a Giga Chad. Meanwhile, Maru's own body started forming a cocoon. He was actually happy. Finally, he was evolving. But the monster grabbed him by the head and lifted him up. Maru braced for a punch, but instead the beast swung him backward and launched him far away. As he flew through the air, Maru saw the monster heading straight for Wuju. He screamed desperately, telling the creature to stay away. Poor guy crashed into the ground, smashing his back against a tree. At least, the cocoon was fully formed. At that moment, Maru emerged, all covered in slime, remembering the scene of the monster approaching Wuju. As soon as he took his first steps, he noticed he was way faster after evolving. But when he got to the spot, there was nothing left. Only yellow dust disappearing in the air. That meant the monster had already gone. He wondered where it could be, and right at that moment, his phone rang with a monster alert from another district. He guessed that's where the creature went. At the same time, he got a call from Duckman, who asked if he saw the level 7 alert. Maru said yes, and that he had something important to say, but Duckman just cut him off, warning him not to go and to stay home. Before Maru could explain that he was already there, Duckman hung up, saying him to go home. With no choice, Maru decided to at least find Wuju while the others came to take down the monster. That's when he heard a phone notification from a bush nearby. He rushed over and found Wuju's collapsed body. Moving to turn him over, he asked if he was okay, but the moment he saw the hand and the pool of blood, it was clear Wuju is fatal situation. In an instant, Maru started producing yellow dust, pleading for Wuju not to die. But then, Wuju's little hand hit the ground lifelessly. He was gone. Just like that, the first victim had fallen. Poor Wuju is no more. Maru took off his shirt and covered his friend's body. He was definitely not okay after this. But damn, by seeing his shirtless our boy, I can say he's gonna fucking kill that monster. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the forest, Kang was informing the leader that she was about to arrive. Daegman was also on his way, but warned her to be careful. The monster's level was already rising to 9. He ordered her not to engage and to wait for his arrival. However, the entire mountain started shaking, so much that even people in the city could feel it and saw the dust cloud. The level had now risen to 10. Kang realized she absolutely couldn't handle it alone anymore. Dokman was worried. It's first time for a level 10 threat appear in Ganghwa Island. In other taxi, Yosak was desperate and Xianwu was yelling at a taxi driver to speed up, but poor Yun was stuck in traffic and knew she wouldn't make it in time. Kang was running through the forest, determined to stop the monster before it reached to a populated area. Suddenly she stopped, seeing a figure approach. She thought it was the monster at first, but then recognized Maru. He immediately turned around and told her to stay away and get out of there. Confused, she asked what was going on and why he was there, but Maru, furious, got right up in her face and ordered her to leave before something happened. He tried to calm him down and asked for an explanation. She wasn't just going to run away. That's when he revealed the nightmare. The evolution demon had reached its final form. Over his shoulder, Kang could now see it approaching, a 5-meter-tall bodybuilder monster with 2% body fat. Shocked, she asked if Maru was seriously planning to fight it alone till it evolved to level 10. Maru, full of grim resolve, said he had to finish it himself. He had no choice. He tried to drive a stake into his own chest, but Kang pushed his hand away, demanding to know what he was doing. He explained that because he had eaten the evolution monster, if he suffered a fatal wound, he would evolve again just like it. Kang realized something was wrong. Maru was acting strange, almost losing his humanity. She pleaded with him to calm down since the rest of the team was already on the way. But Maru got arrogant, saying he didn't want anyone's help. Desperately, she punched him in the chest, asking if he really intended to stab himself without thinking of the consequences. At the rate things were going, he was going to lose himself completely. But without hesitation, Maru raised the stake and drove it straight into his own chest, saying he didn't care even if he died. Poor Kang stood frozen in shock, her eyes widening as she noticed the dust around her intensifying. Right next to her, she saw a gruesome pile of Maru's dead bodies, proof that he had already died countless times. As she wondered how many loops he had endured, the demon suddenly appeared at her back and lunged at her with a deadly punch. It was too fast, there was no time to dodge. But just before impact, someone intervened. Yes, our Chad had arrived. With swagger and force, he blocked the punch, ripped the monster's arm clean off. Damn, this cold beast stunned in shock. Yet even disarmed, the demon retaliated, grabbing Maru by the neck and slamming him into the ground with such force that the earth-cracked demon was choking Maru. Still, Maru held on, dragging the monster closer with sheer will. Meanwhile, Tokman discovered Wu's lifeless body and was stunned by the scene. Before he could react, a powerful shockwave echoed through the mountain, and Kang began to feel fear creeping in. This wasn't the Maru she knew. He launched a powerful punch, leaping at the monster, and for the first time his face showed no emotion. As he was mid-air and about to hit Demon, the monster regenerated its arm and struck Maru in the stomach, sending him flying through half the forest and smashing into a mountain. Kang realized she had to intervene. She was about to activate her powers by cutting her hand when Dukemon stopped her, telling she couldn't handle a level 10 creature. They had already lost one member and couldn't afford to lose another. She asked, "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. Besides, he asked, "Why is the Maru here? I ordered him to stay home." Back at headquarters, Yuyeon yelled that a level 10 threat had emerged on Ganghwa Island. A woman with white hair, the Icha no Maltain commander Gemok, calmly responded that she had already dispatched a team. If they couldn't handle it, they were to notify Director Jung. He, sitting with legs crossed, remarked that this was the first level 10 sighting in 2 years. Yu Yang reminded him that the last time this happened, the Surak Mountain team was completely wiped out, but Jung reassured her, there's nothing to worry because they had Dokman, and they had that weird kid. Yes, he was referring to Maru. Back on the battlefield, Maru rose from the rubble. Despite being ordered to stop, he charged at the boss again and jumped over to attack. Their fists collided in a bone-shattering clash that destroyed Maru's arm. Once again, the monster grabbed him by the neck. As Diakman moved to help, Maru pulled a wild move. He grabbed Demon by his legs and shoved his arm stump into the monster's mouth, and with accelerated regeneration, it burst out the other side of the creature's head. Even Diakman was stunned by the brutality. Maru cratered the monster's neck and bit off a piece, thinking it would stop the regeneration. But Maru didn't stop. He pounded the monster's head relentlessly with cold, emotionless face until the leader appeared and ordered him to stop. Kang stepped in and ended it all by slicing off the creature's head. As the monster's head rolled away, Maru stared at his trembling hand. Kang, beautiful and composed, hugged the emotionless warrior. Only then did the rest of the team arrive. Yoon asked if Kang and the leader had defeated the demon, but Dokman simply said, Maru did it alone. Donghuo couldn't believe he took down a level 10 on his own. Yet there he stood, taller somehow, in Kang's arms. Next, we see Wu's funeral. His relatives cried while the team stood silently. Yosak, Wu's closest friend, couldn't even speak. Kang asked Dokman if he was okay. He admitted he'd never get used to this. She then asked how they'd cover up the incident. He explained that Central Command would call it a work accident. Thankfully, Wu wasn't devoured. They had a body to bury. However, Ganghwa Island was no longer a safe zone. Kang asked if Maru had sent a message. He hadn't. After resigning, he disappeared. He will report to higher-ups tomorrow. Kang said she'd talk to him, but the leader refused. He'd seen this before. When he was in Seoul headquarters, he had survived a level 10 attack that wiped out his entire team. He knew, after losing comrades, people never come back the same. In the next scene, we saw Maru return to the room where it all began. As he lay on the bed, yellow dust spread from beneath him, suddenly floor tearing up. A bloody hand emerged from the crater in the floor. When he turned, Jeong appeared. At first, Maru thought it was a hallucination and startled, wondering how he got in. Jeong explained he had just killed a demon and wanted to talk. Jeong told him to stop avoiding everyone. Maru asking him that, as he came here to hold him responsible. Jeong declined, saying Wu died because he was weak. That cold statement shook Maru, but Jeong insisted he was concerned about Maru's mental state. He said, "You can't end up like your father." Maru was stunned after knowing that Jeong knows his father. Jeong revealed that he and Maru's father were the first squad leaders, and Tae were both deployed when demons first appeared. In a flashback to 1999, Jeong, age of 30, and Hwan, Maru's dad, were fighting a regenerating monster he ordered whole squad to fire with all bullets they had, but nothing worked. Then they threw all grenade to the demon, which aced a massive explosion. Despite throwing grenades and blowing up the forest, the monster survived and regenerated by absorbing yellow dust. They didn't give up though, but slaughtered their entire squad. Only Hwan and Jeong survived. Zhang asked Huan, that is Hioki, but before overcoming from everything that happened to his squad, HR noticed yellow smoke again. In shock, Huan ran off towards something but froze. Zhang asked if anything happened, but Huan didn't reply. In an instant, he got all his answers, as he saw a massive demon with several eyes on his entire body. Zhang screamed that Huan must run away from that monster. Huan said that we must accept this one, that's the only way to survive. He ran towards the Huan, but suddenly, a rift opened, and a hand pierced Zhang's chest. Back in the present, Zhang explained that Maru went through something similar. The demon's blood entered his body, and I got his powers then. He found others like him and started working for the government. When asked what happened to his father, Zhang said that Huan refused to lead the organization. His mind had been shattered. All he could think of was reaching a place called the Abyss. Maru remembered being dragged by his father, who said this was how to reach the Abyss. Zhang confirmed Huan became a demon, believing it was the only way to fight them. Maru was in disbelief, but Zhang told him it was simple. Demon blood runs through the veins of all who use powers. Anyone with powers could one day fall into the abyss and become a demon. After a profound conversation, Maru gazed at a photograph of his father, questioning whether he had truly transformed into a demon. John's earlier words echoed in his mind. If he gave up fighting the creatures, he'd be no different than his father. The thought left Maru deeply conflicted. The next day at the office, Teokmin was already there, but the kid still hadn't shown up for work again. That absence raised concern, and he was heading to Itian to report Maru's resignation. Kang grabbed her jacket, declaring she'd go check on him. But before she could leave, the boy finally arrived, apologizing for being late. The entire office went quiet. Maru decided he would stay in civil service and dig deeper into the truth. He couldn't accept what John had said about his father being a demon. Meanwhile, John entered a mysterious room where a massive creature was restrained by chains, who looked like that several-eyes demon from past. He declared that the preparations were nearly complete. The abyss will soon come for them. Back at the office, the atmosphere remained heavy. Yoon tried to lighten the mood, suggesting they all go out for lunch. Maru quietly declined, saying he wasn't hungry, and encouraged them to go without him. As the others left, they noticed it was once again just the four of them. Ever since the incident with Wuju, Maru had been behaving more and more depressed, and Kang was growing increasingly concerned. Not just Maru, though. It seemed like the entire team was feeling down lately. Later that day, Dekman called out to Maru to take out the trash while he made ramen. Stepping outside, Maru unexpectedly saw Kang. He was surprised to see her there, but she explained she lived here since it was near and convenient to the office. In fact, most of their co-workers did. She offered to help with the trash. Then, in a serious tone, she told him that he couldn't blame himself for what had happened to Wuju. Everyone on the island shared that burden, but Maru turned away, insisting it had been his fault, so don't try to comfort him. Kang walked off, telling him she wasn't trying to comfort him, just urging him to move forward. That's the only way anyone could survive in this place. Everyone in their team had already lost someone close. Maru was left puzzled by her words, but soon after an alarm blared. Yet again, the peace never lasted long. The leader sent Yun, Yosok, and Maru to investigate. It was just a level 6 monster. He also told that he'd geeked his stomach because of food poisoning. Maru was about to head out when Sonwoo stood up, insisting he would go instead if Maru was going to mess things up again. Maru, mentally drained, collapsed into his seat, overwhelmed. Sonwoo grew irritated, saying they couldn't waste time worrying about someone so broken. They needed to get the job done. Out in the mountains, Yoon scolded Sonwoo for being harsh, but Sonwoo didn't care. Before he could finish ranting, a needle suddenly pierced his forehead. He collapsed. When he came to, he looked up to find a huge red monster looming. Yosak was already down, and with a brutal move, Sonwoo broke his finger and crushed the demon's neck, seemingly killing it. His teammates asked if it was really dead, and he confirmed it seemed like it. Then, Yosak noticed something strange nearby. A fat cat named Champ. He recognized it as his own pet, but it made no sense for it to be there. He picked it up, puzzled by how much heavier it felt. Seon-woo told him not to bring it to the office, but Yoon thought it looked happy and allowed it. Back at office, Yosak presented the cat he found in the mountains, but everyone recoiled in horror. Kang instantly told him to put that thing down. It looked like a demonic entity, it was the demon of duplication. As it attacked, spikes shot into everyone's forehead before it ran off. Oddly, in Yosak's vision, it still looked like his innocent pet. He chased it, but there was a door and Duckman laying on ground. Who was asking about that creature? Yochman, also hit by the spike, was frustrated someone had brought a mountain demon inside. All eyes turned to Yosok, who defended himself. The thing looked just like his cat, and besides, Yun and Seon-woo had been with him too and saw the cat. Yun shut the blame game down, saying there is still yellow dust in buildings, so they should focus on hunting the creature before he caused more trouble. They followed its trail to a strange door. Yun warned that it might be an illusion, and they cautiously stepped inside. What they saw stunned them. It was a massive space. Yosok was surprised to know that all just was an illusion. Kang yelled because there was a Rakshasa demon up ahead. A giant spider-like creature crawled forward, yellow dust surrounding it, and there was a woman was hugging a boy which was fatally injured. Yoon was frozen at the sight. She remembered that boy, he was her own son, then realized she was seeing the moment her son had died. She rushed forward, but Kang stopped her. It was too dangerous. She argued that this was where the demon had taken her son. Kang insisted it was just an illusion. Kang understood that the demon stabbed all of them in their forehead, and right now demon was using their memories against them. Maru asked whether the spider was real or another illusion. Seon-woo theorized it could be a duplicated creature from their past encounters. Maru recalled something Jang had said, that demon blood carried information and gave them powers. If true, could this place recreate every demon they'd faced? Kang confirmed it. The level 10 demon that gave powers to Deokmen, and even the gluttony demon that haunted Maru, could be replicated here. That was connected them with blood, and right now the spider Raksha was standing right in front of them, ready to tear them apart. He thought if they couldn't kill that demon, then the gluttony Rakshasa will appear. This thought left him traumatized. He collapsed in fear, certain that it would return and kill them all. But Deokman reassured him no one was going to die, they just had to protect each other. With that, Kang attacked the spider demon while Seon-woo broke another finger and joined the strike. She sliced the demon's head and it fell. They stood victorious, but only for a moment. Another door appeared. Seon-woo started to getting frustrated. Kang asked Yun if she is okay. Yun replied that she is alright, even though she is not that understandable because a demon killed her son in Dradavar. Seon-woo opened that new door, and they entered. In the new space, the room was littered with corpses and mold crept along the walls. Maru realized they were in Kim Yak's memories. Kim was there too, crying out for his wife. He remembered their last moments together. Yosok pointed at the ceiling. A massive red and green creature was clinging there, spores raining down. Maru accidentally inhaled one and get infected. Suffering from suffocation, he looked at others, but everyone else had already collapsed. Thanks to his fast regeneration, Maru remained standing. Determined, he tore off the spores and attacked the beast alone, biting into it. It was a risky move. What if it had been a teammate? Thankfully, it wasn't. The others began to recover. Yosok was relieved to be alive. Maru saw Kim broken, crying over his wife, realizing this was the origin of his powers and the tragedy that shaped him. Maru remembered Kang's words, how everyone at the office had lost someone dear. He realized he wasn't alone in his pain, and that thought anchored him. He couldn't let the weight of his grief break him anymore. With new resolve, he brushed past Seon-woo, only for Seon-woo to shove him aside, warning him not to get in his way. Already ahead, Seon-woo reached the door and prepared to open it. Maru cautioned him to be careful. No one knew what could be waiting behind that gate. But Seon-woo, unfazed, scoffed and said he didn't care. Whatever came out, they'd just kill it and move forward. Just then, a figure appeared in front of the gate. Maru narrowed his eyes, trying to make out who it was, and then smirked and realized it was a memory version of that emotionless brat projected by the gate. Suddenly, the temple demon emerged. Seon-woo didn't hesitate. He walked right up to the creature and demanded an ability. One stronger than his father. Maru stood there, stunned, watching this lunatic talk directly to the demon and request power. Riel Seon-woo explained this was the only way to confront his father. In response, the demon snapped its own finger, and Seon-woo's leg shattered. But Riel Seon-woo took steps straight into the fight and began breaking his own fingers, one by one, in an attempt to take down the boss, yelling at it to die. But unlike him, the boss had hundreds of fingers to break. As the boss twisted its entire arm unnaturally, Seon-woo experienced every bit of the pain in every part of his body and collapsed to the ground. Realizing the battle had begun, Maru charged in. Kang, Yun, and Deokman followed, unleashing their powers, but the situation worsened. Countless hands sprouted from the demon's body, each finger breaking their bones and spines. One by one, they collapsed in agony. The temple demon was far stronger than Maru had expected. Thanks to his rapid regeneration, Maru was the first to recover, but something felt off. Why wasn't Xianwu doing anything? Maru shouted at him, reminding him that he had the same ability as the demon, but Xianwu lay face down, humiliated. He had begged for a powerful ability to surpass his father, yet here he was, utterly defeated again by Maru. What was the point of all this power if he couldn't use it? Meanwhile, the demon raised its arms again, and the fingers cracked. Maru suffered unbearable pain. His evolution Rakshasa ability was not triggered because of his regeneration. He collapsed as the demon walked past him. In desperation, Maru called out to Deokman to do something, but he couldn't move either. Maru started shouting at Xianwu. He was the only one who understood this power, the only one who could fight it. As the demon approached, its arms became a mass of fingers. That's when Xianwu acted. He broke one of his own teeth and used it to destroy an arm of the monster, halting one set of fingers. Kang seized the moment and attacked, managing to slice off another arm, but it wasn't enough. Her blade got stuck in the demon's bony skin, and suddenly, something invisible lifted her into the air. No one could figure out what was happening until Xianwu saw it. Blood dripping from the demon's arm had formed countless invisible hands which now grabbed Kang mid-air and began twisting every part of her body they touched. Maru sprang to his feet, rushing toward the demon, screaming for it to stop, but a hand grabbed him by the neck and lifted him too. Helpless and choking, Maru couldn't see or act. That's when Xianwu snapped. He thought that if he had inherited the demon's power, he had to be able to use it. He bit into his own arm, letting blood drip onto the ground. And from that blood, hands formed, grabbing the monster and pinning it down. In that moment, Yun's spider darted forward and struck the demon right in the neck. With that, she declared their victory. Everyone was completely exhausted. Later, Xianwu leaned against a wall, battered but quietly satisfied. He had finally learned something about his power. Maru walked over and told him it was good he had learned something, and that next time he wanted to see that ability used properly. But Xianwu just snapped at him to shut up and walked off, leaving Maru annoyed again. After taking a short break, the group approached the next mysterious door. As they neared it, a strange sound echoed through the space, sending chills down their spines. Inside, they found a scene that left everyone on edge. Maru was standing before a massive, terrifying creature while calling out for his father. The creature had eyes, unlike anything they'd seen before, and Maru seemed to be in pain, bound and dragged along. His father stood calmly before him and declared that this was the path to the abyss. He explained that if Maru wanted to protect those he loved, he had to accept the power of the gluttony demon. Hearing this, Maru grew suspicious. Zhong had once told him that his father had abandoned his humanity, so why did it now sound like Zhong had been lying all along? Back at headquarters, an intense discussion was happening. John was frustrated by the low number of ability users compared to the rising demon threat. Each Aeon team leader said the number of ability users has skyrocketed in Rakshasa appearances. JN coolly responded that quality mattered more than quantity. The number of level 7 Rakshasa ability users are still low, but she pushed back, especially concerned about the weak defense in ancient regions. She accused Zhong of deliberately forcing dangerous conditions to make stronger ability users emerge. Zhong didn't deny it. The old woman furiously warned him that letting civilians die just to awaken a few powers was insanity. Suddenly, a young woman entered to report that they lost contact with Ganghwa Island, prompting further concerns from the senior woman. Meanwhile, the group stood before the gluttony demon. The monster let out a deafening roar, making them instinctively want to run. But before they could even react, Yosuk pointed out that the demon was already melting. In seconds, the terrifying creature vanished into the ground. Yun was puzzled. Why did this demon disappear without even attacking? The group speculated that this one might have been different from all the others. As they processed the moment, a voice called out for sister. Everyone turned. It was Kang's turn to face her inner demon. She stepped forward confidently, insisting she would go alone. Maru tried to stop her, warning her it was too dangerous, but she replied that this was something she had to do alone. She wanted to be ready when the real battle came. Maru got very concerned because even Xian Wu couldn't defeat that demon alone. Maru took a peek through the door and saw Kang was going through toe-to-toe with the demon. But between their fight, he saw another demon standing there enjoying the fight. And, like Gluttony Raksha, he also had eyes and eye a moment, that demon also falling apart exact like Gluttony Demon. Kang's sword shattered mid-battle. The demon lunged. Maru shouted for help, but she remained determined, insisting she didn't need help. Maru shouted to her to focus. If the demon had a defensive ability, maybe she had it too. Kang paused, processing this as the door slammed shut. Shanwu commented that it was time, she would win now. The rest waited, anxiously. Eventually, the door opened and a bloodied claws emerged. Kang had survived. She collapsed into Maru's arms, exhausted but victorious. Sanu, frustrated, admitted he needed help during his fight while Kang had won hers alone. Don stated that only Yosok and the leader's demons remained. They noticed something peculiar. The door hadn't appeared yet. Xian Wu pointed out that the demon they encountered in the mountain had powers similar to Yosok, and Yosok recalled that when he first met the demon, he was looking for his lost cat, implying a connection. Now only the leader's darkness, Raksha, remained. The scene shifted to the leader himself, who was scratching his belly, stating the maybe demon forgot about him. Despite being a level 10 demon, he seemed more concerned with his lunch than the crisis. Yosuke commented they were lucky, and the group laughed, feeling safer now because now they didn't have to fight a level 10 demon. The yellow dust start clearing the duplicator Rakshasa, nowhere to be seen. Daokman told Maru to get Kang to the hospital and celebrate their victory by have some Korean barbecue. Then, in a sudden twist, Maru punched the leader in the face. Everyone shocked. He accused him of being the real demon. Yun tried to stop him, but Maru pointed out something critical. The leader had eaten Korean barbecue just yesterday and got a stomach ache. There's no way he'd want it again today. Everyone froze in realization. The leader stuttered, confused, but it was too late. They all jumped him and beat him up by countless kicks. The leader screamed, saying they were losing their minds, then bolted from the building. The moment he got outside, bam, the real deckman accidentally hit him with car. As the dust cleared, the terrifying red devil emerged again. Later, during a meeting, the leader told the Enkave that he was in hospital because of his stomach ache, and they had brought a demon inside the building while he was gone. He warned them, if headquarters found out, they'd all lose their salaries for a year. They had to keep it secret. After some moments scene sifted to outside, Kang was exhausted and just wanted to go home. But Shanwu approached her, saying he needed to talk. He revealed something shocking. The demon from her memories, the one she had just fought, and one nearby. He had seen it before. She asked when and where, and Shanwu said something unbelievable. That demon was Director Zhang. He had suspected for a long time. Damn, the twist. The scene flashed back 20 years. Young Shangwu asked his mother where his father was, and she bitterly said he was in the basement, ignoring them because he doesn't care about them. Shangwu rushed to the backyard and peeked through a dusty basement window and saw something horrifying. His father, mid-transformation into a demon, and that was Space Rakshasa. Back in the present, Kang couldn't believe it and why he is telling her these things now. Shangwu said that his father was supposed in the basement, but when he went there and saw that Rakshasa, back then he was not sure, but after seeing her memories, he convinced Kang hardly to believe, stating that if Director was that demon, then why did not he saved his family? Shangwu explained that his entire reason for joining this special civil servant was to uncover the truth about Zhang's identity. He knew a memory wasn't enough proof, but he had an idea on how to confirm it. Later, at headquarters, Kang and Maru joined Shanwu. Maru was annoyed to be there, thinking it was all just Shanwu's crazy conspiracy, but then Zhang entered the room. Calmly, he asked what they were there to discuss. Shanwu wasted no time. He claimed Zhang had been present when Kang awakened her powers. Maru got shocked because Thaw was too straightforward. Zhang feigned ignorance. Kang added that the demon from that day had eyes, and she had heard rumors that the director was that very demon. It was a bold confrontation. Zhang put his hand over his face, claiming they had all been misled by Shanwu's delusions. He said Shanwu had already tried to blame his father for his mother's death, and now this? Maru was stunned. He hadn't even known they were father and son. Shan-woo slammed the table, yelling that this wasn't about his mother. He just wanted to know Zhong's true identity. He told Maru to use the yellow dust to reveal it, but Zhong warned them. Using that power would strip Maru of Ganghwa Island's protection. Maru hesitated. Kang told Shan-woo to stop. She also wanted the truth, but this might not be the right way. Hearing that, Maru suddenly remembered the time he was at Kang's old house. Back then, he had asked her if going through all of this would help her find the truth. And now, as the memories of the demon killing her brother resurfaced, Maru stood up. He declared that if this was indeed the truth, then Xianwu would have to take full responsibility. Just then, yellow dust began spreading as he spoke. He declared that it was obvious now. The director abruptly stood up, questioning why Shangwu had to go this far, even against his own father. But Shangwu didn't flinch. He coldly responded that he had never once considered the director his father. With that, he began to snap his fingers one by one in anger, stating that Yang had only abandoned him and his mother. As he snapped, the glass behind the director shattered. Shangwu lunged forward and violently rammed his shoulder into Zhang's chest, launching him out of the building. As Zhang plummeted downwards, Maru screamed that this was madness. There was no dust below to save him. But Zhang calmly told them to just wait and watch. They would see the truth soon enough. As he fell, Zhang thought to himself in irritation that these kids were really starting to get on his nerves. Suddenly, the space around them shifted. A portal opened behind them, and to their shock, the director stepped out of it. As he arrived, he released dust from his mouth, and it immediately proved Sion Wood-yu was right. Yu Young rushed into the room, demanding to know what the hell was going on. Her eyes landed on the dust and then on the director. She asked him to explain himself. Kang quickly shouted to her that Director Zhang had been involved in her family's death. Zhang casually asked if anyone else from the island suspected him other than the three of them. No one answered, and he smirked, saying their silence told him everything. Suddenly, he activated his spatial power, slamming his hand into the ground. In an instant, everyone was teleported. One moment they were in the office, the next they found themselves in a remote, unfamiliar building. Zheng stood before them. Yu Young again demanded to know what was going on, what he was trying to do. He calmly said that now that they had started questioning him, he had no other choice. He couldn't stain the whole office with blood and organs. Without warning, he launched a spatial attack at them. Yu Yang quickly warned everyone to dodge. Fortunately, everyone dodged that slash. Maru looked back and saw that anything touched by the attack had been completely erased from existence. Yu Yang shouted at Zhang, asking what he was doing and if he'd lost his mind, but he replied coldly. He was cutting off the rotten parts. The kids had seen too much. It was unfortunate that Yu Young, the bald guy, and Wigman had also gotten caught up in this. They could have been powerful weapons against the Abyss. Still, he admitted that getting rid of Maru might actually be a good thing. After all, the Abyss was a massive headache. Maru was shocked and asked why he was being accused of siding with the Abyss. Zhang began preparing another spatial attack and claimed it was because humans were too weak. Suddenly, his hand appeared behind them. Kang turned and two heads were sliced off in an instant. Yep, Xian Wu and Kang was no more. Maru was horrified, but then he noticed Yu Young gripping her chest tightly and thrust into it. She held her heart for 5 seconds and activated the power of eternal pause. Yes, the time had paused. She possessed the ability of the Rakshasa of time, which allowed her to sacrifice 5 years of her life to rewind time by 5 seconds. Damn, this manhwa is going insane chapter by chapter, for now time snapped back to the moment Young was preparing to attack. Dawn stared at them and commented that it looked like he had already done this once, since Yu Young had just saved everyone. The blood on her chest was proof. Maru was confused. He had just seen people die. How were they still alive? Yu Yong was surprised too. No one other than the director should have sensed her time manipulation ability. At that moment, Baldy and Wigman charged in, saying they had no time to waste. The two launched a coordinated attack, but Zhong vanished and reappeared behind them effortlessly. He calmly walked toward Shan Wu, and he asked if his father had truly tried to kill him. Shan Wu snapped another finger in anger, and Zhong's arm bent and broke in response. Zhong glared at him, saying because he is not his father. Zhong tried to unleash another spatial attack, but Maru and Kang managed to tackle him to the ground. Maru warned everyone to be careful, otherwise they'd all die again. Yu Young ordered Double Standard to capture him alive. They still had too many questions. but Baldy and Wigman weren't sure if that was even possible. Clasping their hands together, their blood connected, and they warned that they were going all in now. Wigman dashed forward first, claiming he was the fastest thanks to his blood ability, which doubled his attack speed. But Yang simply prepared a single spatial slash and took Wigman's head off in one move. Everyone was stunned. Still, even without his head, Wigman's body managed to land a punch square on Zhang's face. As his severed head flew through the air, he was smiling, saying they would win. Baldy then revealed the secret of their power. Their blood pact kept them alive. As long as their bond wasn't severed, they wouldn't die. Zhang tried another spatial slash, but their bond immediately reformed. That's when it made sense. This was the final mercy pact. It couldn't be broken. Wigman lay on the ground, thanking the director for everything, but said today was the day to say goodbye. Maru admired their strength. Sanwu warned everyone that Zhang was still dodging with ease, but Kang pointed out something. They needed to look closer. After dodging endlessly, Zhang had gotten himself caught in the blood ties. Baldy and Wigman began pulling in opposite directions, saying this was the end. As Zhang was being torn apart, Yu Young screamed them to cut his arms. In an intent, Kang slashed one arm, and Shan Wu broke the other. It looked like they had finally won. Zhang couldn't activate his powers anymore, but the joy was short-lived. He began absorbing yellow dust to regenerate. Their leader yelled at Maru to bite him and stop the regeneration. Maru shouted in panic that he'd never bitten a human before, but still ran in. Mid-charge, Zhang's expression suddenly shifted. He smirked. Maru's face went pale. Zhang transformed into the same monster from Kang's dream. The punch he threw at Maru unleashed a spatial shockwave. Maru tried to fight back, but the darkness began pulling him in. The black energy absorbed him completely. He vanished before everyone's eyes. The transformed creature simply stood there, grinning like a maniac. Yu Yong tried to comprehend what had just happened. Zhang sighed and apologized, saying he hadn't wanted to reveal his true nature. Shan Wu instantly knew this thing wasn't his real father. So where was the real one? The demon placed a hand over its face and muttered that he couldn't believe he had to kill the very soldiers he himself had created. Kang immediately understood what that meant. He had summoned the demons to her house. He saw her natural athleticism and knew she'd become an excellent ability user. Furious, she lunged, but the leader screamed for her to stop. It was too late. The demon lifted a hand and erased her entire body with a single spatial slap. At the same time, Yu Young lost her arm and others were annihilated. The leader had no choice. She clutched her heart and rewound time again. This time, she gripped Kang's shoulder, warning her not to move, or everyone would die. Kang, desperate and trembling, demanded to know what they were supposed to do now. Yu Yong admitted the truth. She had no idea. Ever since Zhang transformed, his strength was beyond anything they'd ever seen. None of them stood a chance. They couldn't even get close. Kang said that maybe if they had Maru, they could fight back. But Yu Yong shook her head. No one had ever returned from the darkness Zhang created. Meanwhile, Maru was stumbling through that very darkness. He ran as long as he could, breathless and lost in the void, with no light, no direction. Eventually, he collapsed to the ground. But then he saw something. A faint light up ahead. He got back up and ran toward it, but as he reached the light, he came face to face with someone he couldn't believe. Zhang himself. But this Zhang looked thin, weak, and confused. The man stared at him and asked, shocked, how a human had ended up here. Maru, still catching his breath, said he'd been fighting someone who looked just like him and got pulled into this place. He asked what this place even was. That's when the real Young explained. The creature Maru fought wasn't him. It was one of the demons who had escaped from the abyss. Maru was horrified. The demon not only had eyes, it could talk like a human. Zhong revealed the truth. That creature was one of the 8 gods, beings that stood above ordinary demons. These were the ones blessed with the powers of the supreme king of the abyss. Unlike typical demons who killed mindlessly, these 8 gods act on their own will and had purpose and intelligence. As the monster unleashed another devastating spatial slash, Kang urgently yelled for everyone to protect the leader, warning that if she died, they'd all follow. In the blink of an eye, both Kang and the bald man were sliced in half. The leader, overwhelmed, clutched her chest in pain once again and used her ability to rewind time by 5 seconds, restoring their bodies. Meanwhile, an illusionary version of Jiang commented grimly that those from the Supreme Realm were gods among men, far beyond any ability users' capacity to defeat. He warned them never to face such beings as the odds were hopeless. Space Demon pointed out that the leader had already reversed time many times, asking her why she still hadn't given up. At the same time, Yuyan started to wonder when exactly she began obeying the monster's orders. The Space Demon smirked, calling her persistent, and summoned numerous demon portals, declaring that things were about to get interesting. As creatures began to rain from the sky, the group realized the battle had escalated dramatically. They huddled together at the center, bracing for the incoming onslaught. They took their positions and ready to fight. Envoyed Maru questioned the purpose behind these creatures, wondering why the 8 gods, who were technically demons themselves, killed other demons. Zhang then explained that the monster who stole his body had escaped the abyss and had become an enemy of the Supreme King. Now that demon god was attempting to turn humans into weapons to fight the abyss. Maru began to suspect that the entire civil servant system was just a tool created by this space demon. He wondered aloud if killing it might end the war, but Zhang was somber. He said the war had already begun and that it was too late. Maru, deeply moved, said that if they killed the demon, Zhang would regain control of his body. Grabbing Zhang's arm, he insisted they could escape. Zhang, however, claimed it was impossible, his consciousness trapped forever in that realm. Maru, trying to motivate him, reminded Zhang that his son was waiting for him, but Zhang, confused, asked why he'd bring that up now. His son was only a 5-year-old kindergartner. The contradiction shocked Maru, while Zhang calmly said the conversation was too exhausting. He expressed his desire to return to rest with his wife and child. Maru insisted that there must be a way, and they could escape, but Zhang already had lost his all hope and denied the possibility of escape. Back in the real world, the rest of the group fought off the demons pouring in. The Space Demon saw this as a perfect opportunity to eliminate both enemy factions at once. He released another spatial slash that cut through friend and foe alike. The energy warped space itself, crushing everything around that was seeing that their end was near. Just when the group was sure they were done for, a hand emerged from a portal. It was Maru, returning from the void. The monster was startled, and Kang was visibly impressed. Maru, jumping towards Demon, shouted in triumph, announcing that the escape had worked, and clenched his fist, ready for revenge. Flashback to a few minutes earlier, when John said it was impossible to escape. Maru refused to accept that. Just then, a demon tried to grab him, but Maru punched it into dust. Puzzled by its appearance, he recalled a conversation with Yosok, who once mentioned a gate in Pusan that had remained open for 3 days until the director sealed it by throwing air into void. Remembering this, Maru searched the void and eventually found a mysterious door. Though unsure of what lay beyond, he went through. Anything was better than dying there. He entered into the portal, but what awaited him was far worse. He arrived in an abyss. This place was filled with dense yellow dust, almost causing him to pass out. He saw the supreme being with long hair and green eyes like he used to saw in his vision, drawing all the monsters' attention. The earth trembled, and Maru saw an entire hellish army approaching. Realizing he had no chance, he ran, stumbling upon another gate. Before demons could approach to him, he wasted no time and jumped through, just as the monsters closed in, and emerged directly behind the space demon. Maru tried to land a punch, but the monster teleported. They glanced at each other. The boy's sudden return shocked everyone. Yuyang was amazed, and Maru smiled, asking if everyone was okay. He promised that from this point on, he'd take care of the threat. Seonwoo scolded him for overestimating himself. After all, he couldn't even touch the space demon before. But Maru felt different this time. He believed he could win. The demon demanded to know how Maru had escaped the void. Suddenly, green energy shot from the portal and hit the demon. The king of hell appeared, roaring that he had finally found him. The space demon's arm was pulled by a mysterious force as his soul and the space demon realized that Zhang's real self started separating from his body. The creature began closing all the gates, trying to avoid being taken back. Yu Young observed the monsters retreating and guessed that the director was trying to seal everything. Despite his struggles, the King of Hell loomed over him from the gate. For a moment, it seemed like the fight was over, but then the space demon realized something terrifying. A large portion of his power, which had been gifted by the King of Hell, had now been reclaimed. Enraged, he blamed Maru, stretching his hand out toward him and unleashing a deadly spatial slash. Everyone screamed for Maru to dodge, but he stood frozen. The slash hit, cutting his head clean off. Yu Yong reached for her heart again, preparing to rewind time, but Kang stopped her, pointing out something. Maru had activated his evolution ability. His body burst from a cocoon, and he charged at the demon. The creature slashed again, but Maru wasn't afraid. Yu Yong, however, was visibly shaken. The demon's attacks continued to slice Maru apart, while onlookers wondered if the boy was even human. The old man sighed. He thought Maru was gone. But then they counted. 1, 2, 3. 10 copies of Maru had appeared. It was far from over. Maru lunged at the space demon. Just as the demon unleashed another deadly attack, Maru dodged and said, "Not today." He slipped in close, bit the creature's neck, and declared he was taking that ability for himself. But to everyone's surprise, the bite had no effect. Maru looked confused. His gluttony ability didn't work like it usually did. Suddenly, he found himself in the void again. The space demon appeared before him, furious. He warned Maru that he would regret everything. He addressed Maru as Gluttony Rakshasa and claimed the gluttony demon was sent by Abyss to devour his powers. He asked how long as he planned to let the Abyss control everything. According to him, Gluttony Demon would eventually be dragged back into that eternal prison-like abyss. But Maru denied it, saying the accusation made no sense. The demon ignored him and tightened his grip around Maru's neck, whispering that he wasn't talking to him. He was talking to the Gluttony Demon inside his body, wondering how it could be so weak. Despite being one of the original 8 gods, it hadn't even managed to take full control of a human host. Stepping forward with a menacing glare, the demon told Maru it was useless to resist. The space pressure around Maru intensified, and at the same time, he could feel the Gluttony Demon pushing from within, trying to take over. Still, Maru held on, but the enemy mocked him, saying that every human who possessed the power of the 8 gods eventually lost their consciousness. He urged the Gluttony Demon to stop fighting its human host. There was no point. If it truly wanted freedom, it should join him. Together they could destroy the Abyss and use ability users like disposable pawns in their war. That was all they needed, to unite, and they will use human as pawn to destroy Abyss. As he heard those twisted words, Maru's body started to change. A sinister mouth opened on his face, and multiple smaller mouths appeared all over his body, grotesque and disturbing. But Maru roared in defiance. He wasn't going to reverse the transformation. He refused to let anyone manipulate humans like that. No way would he give in. He would devour the space demon himself and end this madness. With that, he lunged forward for another bite, and this time he succeeded. Back in the real world, inside the abandoned building, Maru tore off a chunk of the demon and swallowed it whole. The space demon tried to say it was pointless, that it wouldn't work without him, but before he could finish, blood suddenly erupted from his mouth, and both he and Maru collapsed to the floor. Hang rushed in just in time to catch Maru, while Shonwoo stood silently, watching his father body return to its normal form. Shonwoo placed his coat over the body. It was clear the old man wasn't coming back from the world of consciousness. He had died for real. Later, back at the dormitory, everyone was in their usual spots, still in disbelief. Deokman commented that he would have never imagined their leader was one of the 8 demons. Sure, the director was always a bit strange, but being a demon? That was beyond imagination. They joked that the whole room smelled like beer, trying to lighten the mood. That's when Yu Young called out to Deokman. "Well," she respectfully addressed him as Sunbae. That means... Senior sang she had considered calling an emergency meeting but wanted his advice first. She asked what they should do next. Deokman replied that once the news came out, it would cause mass panic and the government would definitely react. She understood that revealing something like this could bring down their entire organization. For now, they had to keep it all a secret until they figured out what to do and make sure no information leaked outside. Later, Yu Young left with the dynamic dudes, telling him to get some rest. Deokman called out to her, looking exhausted, and told her she'd done well, and also told her to not address him as Sunbae anymore. Night fell. Maru was lying in the living room asking why Sunwoo was still hanging around instead of heading home. Sunwoo replied that he didn't have the strength to move, and suggested that him go somewhere else. He hated sharing sleeping space. Maru casually said his room was just a storage space anyway, but he doesn't like to sleep with a man. He usually slept on that couch. Then he sat up and told Seonwoo he had something serious to talk about. Maru revealed that he had managed to contact his father. Seonwoo instantly straightened up. Maru explained that his father had been trapped in that dark space all this time, and though he tried to save him, it hadn't been possible. That's why he wanted to apologize. Seonwoo's face hardened and he turned away, saying it was fine, but Maru added that his father missed both him and their mother deeply. Then he looked at Seonwoo and quietly asked him not to hate him anymore. Seonwoo didn't respond with words, just a single tear rolled down his cheek. Maru lay back down, uncertain of what the future held. He remembered the demon's final words, that soon one of the 8 gods of the abyss would come looking for them. From here on, it would be the beginning of the end for humanity. Maru didn't know how they were supposed to defeat the gods of hell, considering they were far stronger than any demon they'd ever faced. As that thought sank in, a booming voice echoed, the voice of the supreme king of the hell, calling upon whoever held its power to step forward and invade the human world. Then, appearing like a dark night, one of the 8 demon gods emerged from the shadows, and from now one of the scariest nightmares of humanity just begun. As the scene changed to the headquarters, an old lady was seen loudly screaming at the top of her lungs in a state of panic and disbelief, shouting, "Director Jiang died! What kind of nonsense is that?" Yu Young calmly replied that she had already explained everything to her. The lady turned her gaze toward Yu Young and, in a state of wonder, asked if there existed a higher being far beyond a normal Rakshasa. Yu Young nodded, confirming that such a being had killed Director Jung. The whole room fell into dead silence. Suddenly, someone was heard sobbing. It was Chief Byung-shik. Between sobs, he said he couldn't believe someone like Jung was gone. A pissed-off voice then scolded Myung-shik, saying this was no time to slack off and that they should immediately appoint a new director and prepare for the arrival of the 8 gods. This voice belonged to Huang Rahi, the chief of Ganghwa province. Another man interrupted her, saying they needed to figure out how to report this to the government. This was Yung Pyo, the chief of Jeolla province. Huang Rahi lashed out, asking what the point of informing the government was when the gods were already coming. In a fit of rage, Yongpyo shouted back, asking if she even realized where their funding came from. They were on the verge of being disbanded. Others at the table started murmuring. Yu Yong broke the ice, saying, "Silence, everyone," she thought to herself. After Jung's death, the other chiefs are completely going out of control. She then added that it would be more chaotic if they were to learn his secret, and also about Maru. Myung-sik addressed Yu Young, saying, "Excuse me, ma'am," but she interrupted. "Don't call me ma'am, call me chief." Young-sik then asked if she could describe what kind of being had killed Jung exactly. That scene transitioned to their protagonist Maru, who was shown frustrated, annoyed, and typing rapidly on his keyboard while mumbling, "What's this now?" Ji Won-yun called out to him, saying to hurry up unless he wanted to work overtime. Maru in his mind thought that the 8 gods were coming, yet he was drowning in paperwork all day. Ji Won-yun, clearly pissed off, scolded Maru for not finishing the report earlier. Maru thought, if this is the life of a normal civil servant, and finally clicked the send button, leaning back in his chair. He felt more exhausted than when he fought Rakshasas just then. Deokman entered, stretching his body, and said, "Good work, everyone. Let's do a housewarming party." Maru, confused, repeated, "Housewarming party?" The scene changed to their dormitory. Seonwoo and Yosok arrived, carrying their bags. Dokman explained that, as they were preparing for the 8 gods, these 2 would stay with them upstairs. Those units had just happened to become empty. Maru asked if he could move into an upstairs unit, to which Dokman replied, "Only if you don't want to share a room with me." Maru thought to himself, doesn't he realize how messy his room is? Then he pushed Yosok aside and said that Seonwoo would share a room with the team leader. Seonwoo looked at Maru with a killing aura and asked seriously, "Are you for real?" Dekman stepped in, suggesting they settle it with rock, paper, scissors. Yosok groaned. "Why me?" Maru replied, "If you don't want to play, you lose." All 3 showed their signs, 2 rocks and 1 scissors. Yosok lost. Maru and Seonwoo headed upstairs. Maru thought that living in the same house with Seonwoo felt awkward. Seonwoo had been depressed ever since Director Jung's death. Maru wondered if he should comfort him. Just as Maru was about to say something, they heard a knock at the door. Everyone from the office entered. Deokman announced, "It's housewarming party time." Maru said he didn't think they needed a party, but Jeogun replied that they were just trying to lift Seonwoo's spirit. Maru realized, that's why. Ganghwa Island's team members are pretty thoughtful. As the scene shifted, Jinwan accidentally spilled her alcohol. Maru rushed to stop it before it touched the floor, saying, "I'll clean it." Deokman scolded Jinwan, asking why she was wasting their precious alcohol while cooking. When Seonwoo came by, Deokman tried to feed him soup, but Seonwoo declined and said he'd clean the kitchen counter instead. Then Kim, clearly drunk, came out of the restroom and said the toilet wouldn't flush. He thought it was clogged. Seonwoo went to fix it. Jiwon smiled and commented that it looked like he'd regained some energy. Someone asked, "Where is Kang?" Kang was out on the balcony, enjoying the view of the city. Maru walked out and asked her what she was doing there. She replied, "Just needed some air." Maru asked if she was okay, noting that she hadn't looked good lately. She replied that now that the space Rakshasa who killed her family was gone, she felt empty. Her purpose had suddenly vanished, even though she got her revenge. Then she turned toward Maru and said, "Don't worry, just for a bit." She blushed slightly and asked him how he was doing. He had just found out that his ability was one of the 8 gods. Maru laughed awkwardly and said he wasn't trying to think about it. He'd heard that humans who wielded the power of the 8 gods would eventually lose their minds. Suddenly, they heard a voice say, "Don't worry too much." It was Seonwoo. He said he would make Maru stay there even if he had to squeeze him to death or beat him up for it. Maru looked at him. Seonwoo continued, "There's no need to worry about anything else." Then, the story flashed back to a few days ago. In the basement of headquarters, we saw a chained entity locked deep within. Yu Young explained, "This is where Director Zhang." No, the space Rakshasa was hiding. None of the other chiefs knew about this. Deokman asked why he had hidden it and what the identity of this Rakshasa really was. Yu Young replied that she didn't know. The space Rakshasa wouldn't tell her. But one thing was certain. If they ever lost this Rakshasa to the abyss, it would be the end of humanity. The scene returned. Dickman came out and asked the 3 what they were doing outside. "Stop slacking and come in," he said. The 3 of them rejoined the party, and everyone started drinking and enjoying themselves. Seonwoo thought to himself, "It's time to relax." Someone poured a drink on Maru's head, he thought. It's not like something bad is going to happen, right? But then the scene changed. The same Rakshasa we saw in the last chapter, the one locked away, had now entered the human world. He stood above the city, looking down. With a cold smile, he said, "Time for a massacre." And with that, the beginning of humanity's scariest nightmare had begun. As the scene shifted, a massive hole was visible in the ceiling of the headquarters. A man looked up at the towering structure of the Rakshasa and wondered how such a thing was even there. Others around him were just as shocked. The scene then changed to the interior of headquarters, now in complete panic mode. A red alert had been triggered. A Rakshasa had appeared within their base. A woman shouted into the microphone, commanding all Rakshasa ability users to report to the 53rd floor immediately. She then urgently asked, "Where is Yugan right now?" The scene then shifted to the National Intelligence Bureau. A person exclaimed in disbelief that Director Zhang had been killed by one of the 8 gods. This man was the Minister of National Defense. He asked how they were supposed to deal with such a threat. Yu Young answered firmly, "After witnessing the power of one of the 8 gods, everything about this fight had changed. If the situation escalated, damage to civilians would be catastrophic. They needed to take national action immediately." But, the minister replied, there was no need for additional measures. He ordered them to handle it quietly, just like always. The top priority was to maintain secrecy. They were still a nation at war. Yuyan asked about the situation in other countries. After all, Rakshasa didn't only appear in Korea, right? The director of the Intelligence Bureau responded that the information was classified. Yuyan thought to herself, "Damn it, they're not even sharing vital info with field personnel." Her phone buzzed, an emergency call. She excused herself from the room and picked it up. Then came her scream, loud and shaken. "One of the 8 gods infiltrated the headquarters." On the other side of the line, the voice continued. That Rakshasa was heading for the emergency staircase on the 49th floor. The Seoul headquarters team was already waiting, ready to confront it. One of the team members asked if this Rakshasa really was one of the 8 gods. His eyes were nothing like before. A girl added that the yellow dust was thick, making it harder to see. She warned everyone to stay cautious since they didn't know what abilities the enemy possessed. An arrogant guy sneered and said, "Screw it! I just need to kill it." He was the Tornado Rakshasa ability user. Charging forward, he slashed the Rakshasa's body in half. Even the head came off. Another girl who looked eerily like Makima said, "That was easier than I thought," but suddenly a scream echoed. The arrogant guy spat out blood as the Rakshasa regenerated by sucking all the blood from his body. Within seconds, the man turned into a skeleton. The girl summoned a firebow from her ability and shouted that they needed to stop it. As her arrow hit, her own hand suddenly fell off by itself. The Rakshasa regenerated his hand and spoke, "It's a causal effect. This was the immortal Rakshasa. Another girl with long black hair said, "That thing can't die and it's still talking." The Rakshasa asked, "Where is it, the eighth god, the space Rakshasa? Where is he hiding?" The Blackhand girl used her ability to restrain the immortal Rakshasa, trying to hold him in place. Another guy shouted, "Let's attack together." They both launched an assault. The immortal Rakshasa pulled out his blade and said coldly, "If you're not going to talk, then die." With one slash, he killed both of them and sliced through the entire building. The impact of his power rippled through the city. Civilians on the road looked up, startled, asking if it was an explosion. Someone pointed at headquarters and asked, "Isn't that building going to collapse?" Inside the building, a Restoration Rakshasa ability user was holding the structure together, piece by piece. He ordered everyone to evacuate immediately. The building wasn't fully stable. He thought to himself, "Chief Yu needs to get here faster." The scene shifted to a speeding car. Inside were Yu and Baldy Wigman, racing toward headquarters. Yu asked what the current situation was. Baldy replied bluntly, "It was bad. An immortal Rakshasa had appeared. Two guys were trying to stop it, but it was heading for something." "He's looking for the hidden eighth god," Baldy added. Yu thought in disbelief. "Is he after the Rakshasa in the basement?" Baldy noted it would take them 20 minutes to reach HQ. Yu stared at her phone and murmured under her breath. She called Tjokman and informed him of everything. Tjokman said he would handle it. Yoon, standing nearby, asked, "Is something wrong, leader?" Tjokman replied, "One of the 8 gods has infiltrated the Seoul headquarters." Everyone stared at him in disbelief. Maru was especially shocked at the news of an 8 god's arrival. Tjokman ordered Maru to head to Seoul HQ immediately. He asked if Maru could use the space Rakshasa's ability. Maru said he'd try. Taking a deep breath, Maru activated the space ability. He entered a space domain, a dimensional realm where every opening represented a possible movement path. But the structure was overwhelming, far too complex for him to understand yet. Maru exited and began coughing up blood, even getting a nosebleed. Tjokman shouted that there was no time to waste and told Maru to adjust quickly. Maru, determined, thought, "Let's just try it." Suddenly, a portal began manifesting beneath them. Yosam panicked and shouted, "Wait, where are you?" But it was too late. They teleported into a child's room, a kid who was casually gaming. Tjokman quickly apologized to the boy, while Yosa screamed at Maru to hurry up. Maru teleported them again. This time, they appeared in the middle of a delinquent party. The thugs yelled, "Where did these bastards come from?" Tjokman grabbed Maru by the collar and scolded him. "What are you doing? A taxi would have been faster. An 8 god has appeared. Do you want to die?" Maru, with blood dripping from his nose, gritted his teeth and thought, "Damn it, how the hell do I use the space Rakshasa's ability?" As the scene shifted, the headquarters was still held by the Restoration Rakshasa ability user. The floor was littered with dead bodies, a total massacre. The scene then moved to the entrance of the HQ and into the building. Inside, 3 people stood together. One of them, the Restoration ability user, asked how many ability users were left. The Candlelight Rakshasa ability user replied that, aside from the 3 of them and the support type, only 2 level 8 ability users remained on the 25th floor. We then saw 2 of those users trying to stop the immortal Rakshasa. The immortal Rakshasa said, "The fight with humans was so boring." As he finished his sentence, one of the 2, known as the Crow, Rakshasa ability user, called forth his shadow crows and commanded them to attack. A large crow lunged forward, but the immortal Rakshasa dodged it effortlessly and advanced toward the other user, the Iron Fist Rakshasa ability user. He transformed his fist into metal and charged at the immortal Rakshasa. But the immortal Rakshasa swiftly slashed with his blade, severing the user's head and metallic fist. The Iron Fist Rakshasa ability user was cut clean in half. The Candlelight Rakshasa ability user stood in shock, unable to believe what she had witnessed. She muttered, "No way!" Now, they were the only ones left in the headquarters. Just the 3 of them. The scene then shifted to Maru and the others on the other side of the city. Maru spat out blood again and Kang asked if he was okay. Enkoro scolded him, saying that if he couldn't do it, he should have just said no. With a bleeding nose, Maru responded that he could do it. He said he was starting to get the hang of it. Then, he opened another portal and teleported himself into the portal dimension. While inside, Maru thought that he was beginning to understand the space ability, little by little, though he still needed more time, just a bit longer. Determined, he opened one more portal. Back at headquarters, the last 3 ability users stood facing the immortal Rakshasa. He asked, "So these 3 are the last?" They remained silent. The immortal Rakshasa ordered them to answer if they wanted him to spare their lives. He then asked again, "Where is the 8th god? One of the three turned to the Restoration Rakshasa ability user and told her to restore the building. They couldn't allow civilians to get caught in the destruction. The Water Shield Rakshasa ability user then covered both himself and the Candlelight Rakshasa ability user within his shield. Meanwhile, the Immortal Rakshasa began charging a spear at them. He hurled it with force, but the Water Shield user blocked the attack. The Immortal Rakshasa wasn't even surprised. He simply said, "Impressive," and pulled out a bow. "Let's see if you can block this," he said. He fired his first arrow and shouted, "Ignite!" All the arrows caught fire instantly. The Water Shield user tried to block the attack, but the flaming arrow evaporated his shield and pierced the Restoration Rakshasa ability user. She collapsed to the floor, coughing up blood. At that moment, one of the candlelights stopped burning, a silent signal that she was dead. Outside, everyone watched in horror as the building began to collapse. The scene returned to those inside as the building fell around them. The Candlelight Rakshasa ability user, realizing there was no other way, sacrificed herself to revive the Restoration Rakshasa ability user. She came back to life, confused, asking what had just happened. As she turned around, she saw only the clothes left behind by the Candlelight Rakshasa ability user. In denial and shock, she whispered, "No way!" The Water Shield Rakshasa ability user, now in a panic, shouted at her to use her ability. The building was collapsing. Reacting instantly, she used her restoration power, cursing, "Damn it!" But the Immortal Rakshasa wasn't done. He prepared another round of flaming arrows. The Water Shield Rakshasa ability user tried to block them, but said he couldn't hold them all off. He fell, thinking to himself, was this how it would end? As all hope seemed lost, a voice rang out. It was Maru. "It is all right now," he said, blocking the attack using his spin. The Immortal Rakshasa was stunned and said, "That's the space, Rakshasa's ability." Then, with a smile, he looked at Maru and said, "You must be the Gluttony Rakshasa." "My brother," Maru questioned. "Brother?" and scoffed. "What a joke. I'm an only child." Maru then began to charge his attack, the spatial slash, but Dioman stopped him. He explained that, according to analysis from the control center, the opponent was immortal. You can't kill him. Even if you cut off his body, he will regenerate, but that was a little bit late because... Suddenly, the Immortal Rakshasa began sucking Maru's hand to regenerate. Maru dropped to his knees as Dioman continued explaining the Immortal's ability. Maru, frustrated, muttered that he should have warned him earlier. Dioman shouted, "Don't cut his neck." Maru asked, "Then how the hell are we supposed to kill that thing?" while holding his injured arm. The Immortal Rakshasa stared silently at Maru. Now that the whole team had arrived through the portal, they all stood ready to face the Immortal Rakshasa. As the Immortal Rakshasa regenerated his arm, he looked toward Maru and asked, "Gluttony Rakshasa, where is your brother?" Maru thought to himself, "Our brother? Is he talking about the one in the basement?" He questioned the Rakshasa in return. Why did he want to know? The Immortal Rakshasa responded, "Because I must take you all to the Supreme King of the Abyss." Maru mocked him, saying, "Who the hell would follow bastards like you?" The Immortal Rakshasa lowered his gaze and muttered, "Then I have no choice." He drew two swords and instantly dashed toward Maru. Maru tried to dodge, but he wasn't fast enough. Just then, Sionwu broke his fingers to save Maru. While gritting his teeth in pain, Sionwu realized they needed a way to kill the Rakshasa without cutting off his neck. Unlike most Rakshasas, this one had intelligence. He thought, what if we attack his brain? Maybe then he won't regenerate. As Sionwu was lost in thought, Kang charged in from the side to strike the Immortal Rakshasa, but he blocked the attack, leaving Kang stunned. Suddenly, Jiwan's spider attacked from behind and swallowed the Immortal Rakshasa whole. But everyone knew that wasn't the end. Jiwan warned everyone to prepare for a real fight. While she was giving orders, Dekman moved to the front of the two last survivors. They looked at him in confusion, wondering who these people were. Dekman asked if they were all right. One of the Restoration PH Prashasa ability users asked, "What team are you all from?" Dekman replied that they were from Ganghwa Island, sent by Chief Yu. He told them, "We're here to get you out. Just focus on restoring the building." As they were talking, they suddenly heard Jiwan screaming at the top of her lungs, completely panicked. "No!" she cried. The Immortal Rakshasa had sliced off her spider's legs. Jiwan instantly ran toward her spider and called out its name. "Min!" Dokman called out to stop her, but it was too late. The Immortal Rakshasa swung his sword high to finish off Min at that moment. Sionwu broke another finger to intercept the attack, shattering the Rakshasa's blade in the process. Sionwu screamed, "It's dangerous!" but he had broken his hand too. The Immortal Rakshasa scoffed, "What nonsense!" and hurled a spear at Sionwu, who couldn't dodge. Kang took the hit in his place. Kang fell to the ground, thinking, "I only got hit by the spear, but my arm?" Sionwu screamed for Kang to look ahead. The immortal Rakshasa was still attacking. Maru then struck from behind using his space ability, but the immortal Rakshasa sensed it. He grabbed Maru by the neck and pointed his blade toward Kang. He asked the gluttony Rakshasa, "Why are you fighting for humans?" Then, pointing the sword at Maru, he added, "Or should I just cut off your human parts?" Suddenly, his gaze shifted as Dekman used his ability, popping his eyes out to open a domain. The immortal Rakshasa muttered, "Another bothersome pest," just before being pulled into Dekman's dark domain. Surrounded by shadows, the Rakshasa muttered, "I can't feel anything. Is this nothingness?" Dokman said, "There's no point in cutting off his neck now. Everyone else was outside. It was Dokman's domain ability. He had silently moved them all out." Ambulances and fire brigades arrived at the scene. Jiwon took command and ordered the Seoul team to assess the situation and check the civilians near headquarters. She instructed them to focus on restoring the building. The Ganghwa Island team followed her lead. Yosik asked quietly, "Will he be okay in there?" The scene then shifted to the basement of the building. Deokman was slapping Maru to wake him up. Maru finally opened his eyes and asked, "Where am I?" Looking around, he saw Kang, Deokman, and Seonwoo. Deokman replied, "We're in the basement." Maru asked why they were there. Deokman explained that it was the safest and best place to avoid damaging the building. Seonwoo then asked the most important question: how were they going to kill the immortal Rakshasa? They couldn't cut off its neck either. Maru suggested that if he used spatial removal, he could make the entire place disappear. Kang spoke firmly. Spatial removal was too dangerous. It could wipe out the entire area. But Deokman replied with resolve, "There is no other way. Han Maru, listen to me." Just as he was about to continue, the ceiling suddenly collapsed. The immortal Rakshasa had entered the basement. Kang, in shock, thought to herself, "It's already here." The immortal Rakshasa grinned as he looked around and said, "Oh my, everything I was looking for, all in one place." Maru immediately began charging up his attack. The Rakshasa sneered and asked, "You're going to get in my way again? It seems like humans never know when to give up." As he spoke, he pulled out both of his swords. He continued, "Do the four of you actually think you're enough to defeat me?" Maru responded calmly, "No, but we win in numbers." Without hesitation, he opened a portal to teleport everyone away. As Chief Yoksik saw the portal, he asked in disbelief, "Isn't that still Jong's ability?" One by one, people started falling through the portal. Hwang Rahi looked around, startled, and shouted, "What the hell is going on here?" Others echoed the same confusion, voices rising in panic and disbelief. Nobody knew what was happening, while the immortal Rakshasa watched them all with amusement. "I was getting bored," he said, his eyes gleaming, "since I cannot die, but now this is starting to get interesting." He stared intently at everyone, the thrill of battle finally lighting his expression. Everyone turned their attention toward the immortal Rakshasa. Chief Yogsik, stunned, asked, "Is this one of the 8 gods?" The situation was completely unexpected. Hwang Rahi turned to Maru with suspicion and asked, "But was he the one who teleported us? How is he using Jong's ability?" Meanwhile, Deokman called out to Ma Yongsik, who answered casually, "It's been a while," but Deongman wasn't in the mood for chatter. He cut him off and said firmly, "We can skip the pleasantries, quickly read my memories." Ma Yongsik activated his ability without question. "Okay, I've read them," he said, and with that he took the lead. He turned on his telepathy TFP Rakshasa ability and used it to transmit Deongman's memories to everyone present. Incheon Chief, Gangwon Province Chief, Jeolla Province Chief, he instructed sharply, "Move according to the plan." As the memories were shared, the old lady popped something into her mouth, scoffing at the commands. "How arrogant! Ganghwa Island's team leader dares to order me?" But her arrogance quickly faded as she dropped to her knees and her hand turned green. The immortal Rakshasa observed the scene with growing irritation and muttered, "Looks like they're going to do something annoying again." Without hesitation, he pulled out his sword and began to charge at them. Myeong-sik, through his mental link, commanded everyone not to attack, only defend. "We can't injure the immortal Rakshasa." The two sides clashed fiercely, holding the line. Myeong-sik shouted again, "We must buy time until the Incheon Chief's ability activates." The Incheon Chief calmly replied, "1 minute." The immortal Rakshasa dashed toward her, attempting to take her down, but the others threw themselves in the way, shielding her from the blow. "We must block him until then," Myeong-sik repeated with urgency. "So you've chosen to defend?" The immortal Rakshasa scoffed. He pulled out even more swords from his body. His arms were now coated with blades, and wings made entirely of swords spread from his back. Giacomin shouted a warning, "Be careful! I've never seen this attack before." The Rakshasa rushed straight at the old lady, his countless swords piercing the air like death itself. But a man, the steel scale Rakshasa ability user, stepped in front of her and blocked the assault. "Damn, the defense is breaking down," he grunted. He turned to the old lady and asked, "How much more time do you need?" She glared and snapped back, "Stop whining, you youngsters are too impatient." Just then, thick tree vines burst from the ground, wrapping the Rakshasa in their grip, but before he could retaliate, a monstrous mouth emerged from below and swallowed him whole. The old lady had used her carnivorous Rakshasa ability. "The first bind is done," she said coldly. "There's no time, move on to the next." Without hesitation, the steel scale user began turning into a plant, shielding the monstrous vine trap with layers of hardened steel scales. "Second bind, done," he declared. Another man nearby called out, "Joa Province, Chief, hurry up! I can't hold this longer than 30 seconds. The incineration Rakshasa user stepped forward, his flames already igniting. "This was close," he muttered, then unleashed his fire upon the steel-covered trap. Everyone began counting together. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 29, 30. With perfect timing, he yelled, "Incineration complete!" A massive explosion erupted across the battlefield, smoke and heat filling the air. All eyes were fixed on the blast. Is the immortal Rakshasa really dead?" Maru asked aloud, not quite believing it. But then he turned his head, and what he saw made his blood run cold. A man with the head of a dog stood silently, scanning the area. This was the sense of smell Rakshasa. "Something's wrong," he muttered. "The scent of the immortal Rakshasa is still..." Before he could finish, blood from across the area floated into the air. It began swirling, gathering from bodies, from the ground, and from within. The immortal Rakshasa was using their blood and flesh to regenerate. His body reformed rapidly, growing back piece by piece until he stood whole once more. Then, without pause, he pulled out a weapon and launched into another violent attack. Everyone scattered in different directions to protect themselves. He now stood tall with a limp body slung over his shoulders, smirking as he said, "As expected, it's boring." Then he paused and asked, "Where's Gluttony?" Kang and Sonwoo, both crouched beside Maru, covered his mouth with their hands, making sure not even a breath could be heard. The immortal Rakshasa scanned the surroundings, eyes narrowing. Then, without warning, he opened a gate to the abyss. "I'll come back soon," he said coldly, "to find Gluttony." The Rakshasa he took with him had silver feather-like hair. The gate shut behind him. Everyone stood frozen in place. Hope drained from their faces. The battlefield had fallen silent. The scene then shifted to Yu, her thoughts in disarray. Just within 10 minutes, the immortal Rakshasa reduced headquarters to ashes, and he took the Rakshasa that said to bring the end of humanity. Maru, lost in despair, collapsed and muttered, "We lost. What should we do from now on?" In the first scene, some news anchors were talking. The Yellow Dust Department headquarters had been attacked. The news TV host asked, "What is this? A terror aimed at the national agents?" A man wearing a weird alien outfit said, "Everyone, this is definitely an alien invasion." Another female reporter said the explosion in the headquarters was caused by a gas leak. Maru was watching the news. He grabbed his head because of these nonsense conspiracy theories. Suddenly, Maru got a call from his mom. He picked it up. His mother asked if he was okay. She continued that she was shocked after hearing about the explosion and asked, "The Yellow Dust Emergency Department is your workplace, right?" Maru answered that he worked on Ganghwa Island, so he was all right. Then he asked if she was okay. His mother said she was, and explained she usually passed by that building on her way to work, so she had been a bit shocked. Maru wondered if the immortal Rakshasa had managed to escape. He started remembering everything and thought, "My mom would not..." Someone knocked on his door and called his name. Maru opened the door and answered, yes. It was Baldy and Wigman. They asked how long he planned to stay inside. Wigman asked if he was pooping the entire day. Maru asked what they wanted. They told him Yu was looking for him. The scene shifted outside the headquarters, which was now a pretty small building with some tents set up around it. Maru entered a tent and asked if Yu had called him. Everyone inside just stared at him. Then Yu spoke. Since Maru was there, they should ask questions directly to him to confirm things. The old lady asked why she had built the temporary headquarters here. Leonsik said the immortal Rakshasa had said he would come back to take Maru, because he was one of the 8 gods, just like Jeong and the immortal Rakshasa. Huang Rahi crushed a soda can in her hand and said that even thinking about it made her angry. She continued, asking if it made sense that the head of the organization had been a Rakshasa. Yongsik started crying and said he was upset too, because he went to Sana's and ate with him. Rongpyo told him to stop saying useless things and to decide what to do with that human, because he was going to stop being human soon, just like Jong. Deokman disagreed and said no. He continued that, after observing Maru closely, he was the gluttony Rakshasa, but he wouldn't change, and they needed Maru's help right now. He was the only one who had the ability to fight the 8 gods. Everyone stared at Deokman. He said they should stop suspecting their allies and discuss how to kill the immortal Rakshasa. The old lady said that sounded good, and admitted it wasn't strange for a team leader to be in the chief's meeting. You explained that before she became a chief, Deokman Sunbaye was the original chief, so he had all the qualifications. Maru thought, what? Deokman, who only drinks, eats, goes to work, and sleeps every day, is what? The old lady screamed that this meant he had left his position irresponsibly and gone to Ganghwa Island to hide. She said that furthermore his last plan had failed and they had lost to the immortal Rakshasa. Deokman said that plan had been made urgently, and this time they needed to prepare properly. Huang Rahi asked if there was any other way aside from stopping the immortal Rakshasa's regeneration completely. The old lady said there was, just make him unable to move. She said her ability needed 1 minute to charge. Myeongsuk screamed, demanding why she thought a reused plan would work, and told her not to order other chiefs around because her ability was useless. Tongpyo glared at Myeongsuk and were about to attack him. Tongpyo asked if he thought her Venus flytrap ability was useless. She raised her fist and asked what he knew and whether he only knew how to talk. Myeongsuk panicked and asked what was wrong, wondering if she was mad at him. Deokman turned to Yu to signal her. Maru raised his hand and asked, how about I lock the immortal Rakshasa in black space? Yu asked how long it would take to activate. Maru answered, 5 seconds. If you can make the immortal Rakshasa stay still for just 5 seconds, I will lock him in black space. Everyone looked at Maru in disbelief and shock. Maru continued that this way the immortal Rakshasa would never be able to escape. The scene changed to Ganghwa Island's Mani Mountain. There was a tent, and inside Maru sighed and said that being bait was hard. He thought he couldn't believe that he had to stay in the mountains all alone until the immortal Rakshasa showed up, but there was no other way to avoid casualties. While Maru was questioning his life, he suddenly saw a face and screamed. It was just Kangwon and Jiwon. Kang said he had scared her. Jiwon asked why he was so surprised. Maru demanded, what are you doing here? Kang said they came because they thought he would get bored alone and everyone was going to camp and stay with him. Soon the others started joining them too. Maru asked if it was all for his sake. Seonwoo said no and explained that Deokman had told them to observe him in case he became like the others. Seonwoo thought, when will that Ajusi trust me? Maru answered that it wasn't as if he hadn't thought about running away, but he was too scared of the immortal Rakshasa. He kept thinking that if he died there, it would feel too unfair. The scene shifted to the others. Jiwon was handing out food and asked Kim if he wanted some cup ramen. Yosak said to use water from the thermos before it cooled down. Maru screamed from the tent that he was worried, and they were thinking about eating. Seonwoo asked if he thought he was the only one suffering and the only one fighting. Kang agreed and said they were by his side, so he shouldn't worry. Maru thought they probably just wanted to camp, but it was still better than being alone. He came out and asked where his ramyeon was. As he ate, he asked if they had brought their tents. Yosok asked if Jiwon brought them. Jiwon answered that she only brought one tent, which she and Kang would use, and asked if the others hadn't brought their own. The scene shifted inside the tent, where Yosok, Seonwoo, Maru, and Kim were all sharing a single tent. Seonwoo elbowed Maru and told him to move a bit. Maru thought, infestation, just go back home, please. Or, immortal Rakshasa, please come sooner. Outside the tent there was a dim glow in the air. Suddenly a gate started appearing out of nothingness. At headquarters, Deokman was working on his computer when a yellow dust warning began flashing. You asked what that was. Deokman said it was undetectable. It's that thing! The scene shifted back to the gate, where a massive figure began coming out. It was the immortal Rakshasa. As he stepped out, everyone felt it. Suddenly, Maru teleported there using his ability. The immortal Rakshasa asked, have you been waiting for me? Maru said he had missed him so much. As he stepped out from his portal, the others started coming out too. The immortal Rakshasa asked if this was the same strategy again. Maru said no, this time there were fewer people. The immortal Rakshasa asked how they planned to win against him with so few numbers. Even if they fought with 100 more humans, they would lose. Maru replied, we'll see. This is the revenge match. Maru asked the others if they had learned the strategy beforehand. They just had to tie the immortal Rakshasa's feet within 5 seconds. Youngpyo asked him who he was ordering, saying he was just a team member. Baldy and Wigman turned their heads to give him a deadly glance. Wigman said Maru was the center of this operation. Baldy warned him to stop talking and follow the orders. Youngpyo made a mocking face and said that after Young's death, the Yellow Dust Department was doomed. Baldy and Wigman rushed forward to attack, and they said they were leaving the guy who didn't work. Then Baldy said the fight was starting. Wigman said he was thrilled to find out how strong the immortal Rakshasa was. The immortal Rakshasa pulled out his blades. A girl started floating above the immortal Rakshasa, and suddenly it began to rain. It was a decoy. As the immortal Rakshasa shifted his attention to the floating girl, another girl used her ice abilities to freeze his lower half. Maru thought it was nice they had chosen only those who had restraining abilities. The level of the user was not important. As the lower half of the immortal Rakshasa got frozen, Baldy and Wigman used their blood bind. Then Wigman shouted to Maru that it was time. The immortal Rakshasa couldn't move. As soon as the immortal Rakshasa heard those words, he used brute force to swing Baldy aside. When Maru saw it, he asked Wigman to pull the ropes even harder. As they did, the gravity user changed the gravity to 20 times. The blade fell from the immortal Rakshasa's hand, but the immortal Rakshasa was still standing. Baldy and Wigman got pinned to the ground. Maru asked the gravity user what he was doing, and if he was trying to kill their teammates too. The gravity user said it didn't matter as long as the immortal Rakshasa was unable to move. Maru thought there was no time to argue. He needed to open the black space quickly. The immortal Rakshasa bent down to pick up his blade. As he did, he said, 20 times gravity, so my slashes will also be multiplied by 20. As he said that, he began to swing his sword for a slash, and it was so powerful that the attack range covered the whole area. The gravity user and Maru both tried to stand still as the impact of the attack unleashed powerful winds. The steel scale, an immortal Rakshasa ability user, said to defend the area within 500 meters. He continued that he needed to make sure there were no casualties under the mountain and to ensure the immortal Rakshasa didn't go anywhere else. You gave orders to the others that they must prevent the immortal Rakshasa from regenerating in another place. She asked Teokman if this time they should start the second phase, right? Teokman answered yes. He said Wigman shouldn't get overexcited. The scene shifted to Baldy. He was attacking, but the immortal Rakshasa dodged it, and Wigman attacked him back. Wigman said he was very strong and that it was over for him. Then he asked the immortal Rakshasa to go head-to-head. At that moment, the immortal Rakshasa stabbed him in the stomach. Wigman said, "Caught you." Suddenly, Myeongsik came from behind saying, "You worked hard," and used his ability while the others supported him. He said to leave it to them from now on. The immortal Rakshasa asked what this was and if he was in a phantom. Myeongsik ordered everyone to focus. 5 seconds from now, Maru started charging his ability. Myeongsik ordered everyone, while Maru charged, to make sure the immortal Rakshasa couldn't wake up from the phantom. A timer appeared on the screen. It read 0.1 milliseconds. The immortal Rakshasa charged his spear and attacked the ground. As he did, everyone outside the phantom bled from their mouths. Now it was 0.65 milliseconds. The immortal Rakshasa charged another attack. Now it was 0.76 milliseconds. Myeongsik said they had to buy time for Maru. No matter what, everyone had to endure it. As Maru continued charging his ability, the immortal Rakshasa attacked once again. Then there was a flashback. Some fighters lay dead on the ground. It was the scene of a total massacre. A soldier called someone general. He informed him that all the enemies had run away. As they saw the face of that general, it was the immortal Rakshasa. He smirked and ordered his soldiers, "Let's chase them." A little boy came running toward the horse and said he would also go with him. "Father," the immortal Rakshasa patted his head and smiled. As the scene came back to the flashback battlefield, a soldier reported to the immortal Rakshasa that some civilians had surrendered. He asked him how they should dispose of them. The general ordered them to behead them. That soldier asked if they really had to kill them, since these were just civilians. The general said yes, they must, because he liked seeing people dying. He pulled his blade out and said he would become immortal with the flesh and blood of the ones he killed. The soldier stabbed his sword into the general's stomach and said he was such a crazy man. The general said the soldier was attacking him mentally, holding him using the memories from when he was still human. The The scene shifted back to the present. Myongsik and the others were still holding the immortal Rakshasa as Maru charged his attack. He thought, was he planning something? The soldier ordered the civilians to make sure they couldn't escape their mental attack. It was Myongsik using his ability, and he was the soldier. Maru thought there were still 4 seconds left. The others started attacking. The immortal Rakshasa said, "Useless tricks." Then he started chopping everyone with his blade. 3 guys stabbed their short blades into his body to hold him in place. The immortal Rakshasa asked if they were trying to restrain him. He chopped their heads off like it was a walk in the park, and he continued, "With this level of mental attack?" Some of the guys who were supporting the mental attack fell to the ground. Maru screamed that the immortal Rakshasa was going to wake up soon and told everyone to prepare to attack. The immortal Rakshasa stabbed his blade into the ground to make a massive crack as the ground split open. Leonsik had captured the immortal Rakshasa's son and ordered the immortal Rakshasa not to move or he would wipe him out. As he was about to say his final words, the immortal Rakshasa attacked him. He said he must escape from this place. They saw Myeonsik's hand fall down. Suddenly, Baldy and Wigman pulled their bloodbind ropes even tighter. As another girl was going to use her ability on him, the immortal Rakshasa punched her, and the girl flew away from the impact. As the gravity user used his ability, the immortal Rakshasa sliced his own hand off. The gravity user thought the immortal Rakshasa had sliced his own arm to stop the ability. The immortal Rakshasa began using his power to suck blood and flesh. Suddenly, Weigman rushed forward to attack. Maru warned him from behind not to get close to him. As Maru said that, he released his attack. The immortal Rakshasa saw the attack and said, "It's that strategy." They saw Seonwoo and he said, "Ganghwa Island team, now!" As he said that, he broke one of the immortal Rakshasa's legs. They had been hiding in Yosok's ability. Kang cut her hand and made a massive spike that pierced through the immortal Rakshasa's head. 5 seconds, Maru thought happily in his mind. He thought they had made it. Kang yelled to close the space and Maru did. Everyone took a sigh of relief. Seonwoo asked if it was over. Maru asked if they had succeeded. The doghead guy said the smell of the immortal Rakshasa had completely disappeared. Kang ran toward Maru, calling his name. Manyongsik fell to the ground and said it seemed like they had won. The old lady said they had barely made it. Suddenly, Maru fell to his knees and grabbed his chest. Inside the black space, the immortal Rakshasa said he came here to find the gluttony Rakshasa. As the gluttony Rakshasa stared at the immortal Rakshasa, Maru yelled, "No way, no!" Kang called Maru. Maru thought he had made a mistake. He hadn't considered that the gluttony Rakshasa would also be stuck, just like Director Jung. He couldn't believe he had made the immortal Rakshasa meet the gluttony Rakshasa. Kang asked again what was wrong. Maru answered that the immortal Rakshasa was trying to wake up the gluttony Rakshasa in the black space. Maru opened a portal and said he had to finish things with the immortal Rakshasa. Kang asked how he was going to do it all by himself. Maru answered there was no other way before he lost himself. Maru entered the portal. Seonwoo and Kang tried to stop him as the 3 of them entered the black space. Jiwon stood there stunned. Deckman came running toward them and asked his team where those 3 had gone. Seonwoo asked if this was the black space. Maru asked them why they had followed him in. Seonwoo replied, called Maru stupid, and asked how he was supposed to win on his own. Kang joined in and asked Maru if he had a plan. Maru answered spatial removal. He could use it here without any worry. Seonwoo asked if he could keep up with the immortal Rakshasa's speed. If he failed to do it in one try, they would all die there. Kang said they would keep the immortal Rakshasa in one place no matter what. They saw the immortal Rakshasa attacking the gluttony Rakshasa. The scene shifted outside. Yu was ordering everyone to stay prepared in case the immortal Rakshasa reappeared. She ordered again that everyone should maintain their battle positions. Hwang Rahi, totally annoyed, said this never ended. In the back, Dukman was discussing with his team. He hoped the worst-case scenario did not happen. Yosuk asked what could be worse. Was there anything worse than the immortal Rakshasa repairing itself? Then replied that if Hamru ended up being consumed by the gluttony Rakshasa, that was the worst case. They saw the immortal Rakshasa still attacking the gluttony Rakshasa, telling it to wake up. As he was about to attack one more time, his fingers broke. He looked back and saw the 3 of them. Seonwoo said one more time and then broke his hand. Maru used his attack, spatial removal. The immortal Rakshasa fell back to dodge it. Bah! Maru thought, how did he avoid the spatial removal? Kang came from behind, thinking she had to aim for the brain. She was going to stop him from moving. As the immortal Rakshasa swung his sword back to charge an attack, he said he was getting annoyed. Kang created a shield from her ability and warned the others to avoid it, but Maru and Xianwu both got hit. Kang fell back from the impact. Suddenly, the immortal Rakshasa rushed forward and grabbed Maru's neck. He said he would finish Maru right there and wake the gluttony Rakshasa. Maru thought he would die. He couldn't even move a finger. From nowhere, some hands came and grabbed the immortal Rakshasa. It was Xianwu, as he yelled at Maru to use spatial removal. Now's the chance! The immortal Rakshasa stared at Xianwu and said that Xianwu had messed up his plans too many times. He would take all the flesh and blood from Xianwu. Maru thought no. But suddenly, Kang came from behind and stabbed directly into the immortal Rakshasa's head. Kang said to make him unconscious. She was using her blood to keep reconstructing the knife. She yelled at Maru to use spatial removal now. But Maru thought if he used spatial removal now, those two would die too. He said, if so, and teleported Xianwu out of the black space. As Xianwu asked what he was doing, Maru started teleporting Kang out too. He said they both should go back. As Maru teleported Kang out, he stared at her, then turned back and went to punch the immortal Rakshasa. The immortal Rakshasa grabbed Maru's face. Maru bit his hand. The immortal Rakshasa was shocked. He asked in disbelief, what was this? Maru answered that he had figured out the best way to kill him. He continued that his space ability was gone now. Together with the black space, both he and the immortal Rakshasa would disappear. As the immortal Rakshasa chopped Maru's hand off, it regenerated. Maru said that he was immortal now too, so stop attacking him uselessly. As Maru and the immortal Rakshasa stood there face to face, Maru said, die here with me. As both stood there, the gluttony Rakshasa still sleeping in the back, the immortal Rakshasa said how foolish it was. He couldn't believe that Maru was putting his life on the line just to get rid of him. Maru snapped back, annoyed, and said he didn't have any plans to die today if you weren't here. The immortal Rakshasa said, then pay the price, and cut off his own head. When the head hit ground, it started to absorb Maru. Boy asked the immortal Rakshasa if he thought he was the only immortal there. He started absorbing him in return. As Maru was absorbing him, he watched his flesh and blood start vanishing into the air. The immortal Rakshasa said that even though they had the same ability, Maru couldn't win against him with the body of a mortal. Immortal Rakshasa almost absorbed him and made him a bare skeleton. Only left thing in his body, there was just Maru's brain. As Maru thought in pain that if they were both going to die anyway, then why did it have to be like this? He was about to think further when the immortal Rakshasa stepped on his chest and grabbed his skull. The immortal Rakshasa said that Maru deserved to suffer in pain to pay the price of killing an immortal, and that he would confiscate everything Maru had, even his soul, so there would be no afterlife for him. The immortal Rakshasa said, get absorbed by me. Maru was constantly thinking, no, no. Suddenly, the gluttony Rakshasa opened his eyes and attacked the immortal Rakshasa. As he began to devour the immortal Rakshasa, Maru thought, was the gluttony Rakshasa helping him? Or the immortal Rakshasa yelled at the gluttony Rakshasa, demanding how he dared. The gluttony Rakshasa ate the immortal Rakshasa totally and came toward Maru. His brain started to absorb immortal Rakshasa. Maru continued to wonder if he was helping him or going to eat him too. As the gluttony Rakshasa grabbed Maru and opened his mouth, but he hugged Maru. Maru thought the black space was disappearing. Was this the end? Maru asked if it was protecting him. Was it because if Maru lived, it lived too? What was the point of knowing that everything was over? Fortunately, those two could survive, but Maru was the only one dying here. We saw the scene a few minutes ago. Those two fell out from the black space. Jiakman called them both, Seonwoo and Kong, and asked what had happened there. Jiwon said they all had been surprised to see them both going into the black space. Jiakman asked where Maru was. Kong said with a panicked face that he had kicked them out of the black space. She continued that she thought he was about to eat the immortal Rakshasa. Seonwoo asked in shock if now Maru was locked in the black space because he had lost his space ability. Seonwoo bit his lip until it bled. Deokman asked if he was going to die there with the immortal Rakshasa. Now everyone was worried. Kang said they couldn't let him die like that. She showed them a finger of Maru and said, "This is Maru's finger. It was cut off in the black space." She continued that if he succeeded in getting the immortal ability, he could be revived with this. Yaesuk asked if there was a possibility, but how would Maru get the flesh and blood he needed to recover? Everyone held out their hand and said, Please, Han Maru, return to us with this." In the black space, the gluttony Rakshasa still hugged Maru. Maru saw a light and tried to get to it. He saw that the gluttony Rakshasa was watching him leave. Maru grabbed his hand and insisted the gluttony Rakshasa to go with him. He pulled himself and the gluttony Rakshasa both up toward the light. As Maru touched that light, some hands appeared and pulled him. Maru opened his eyes and saw everyone. Yisok said he was alive. Dekman called his name. Kang called out to Maru too. Maru asked how he had gotten back. They were supposed to disappear in the black space. As Maru looked at everyone, he asked where their arms had gone. Maru started crying. He said, "No way, did you guys?" Yisok shook Maru and told him to stop that and release some yellow dust. It was so painful he thought he was going to die. Seomu threw his jacket over Maru and said his eyes hurt looking at Maru like that, "So put some clothes on." Maru felt ashamed and said, "All right, they saw you and the others. You said that Maru had gotten rid of the immortal Rakshasa." The old lady answered finally, "Yeah." She turned back to the team. Dekman said they should have a company dinner tonight. Kim said it was to celebrate him coming back from death. The old lady asked, so now that Jung was not with them, was Maru their last hope? Season 1 ends here. Then we saw some scenes of Season 2. A long-haired guy and someone talking on the phone. It was the Seoul headquarters chief. Yu answered and said it had been a while, Jeju Island chief. She said an emergency meeting to discuss the measures against the 8 gods would be conducted. All the regions would participate. The Seoul chief said, "See you in Seoul," and then cut the call. During call, she killed some Rakshasa and said she couldn't wait to see how strong are the 8 gods. The scene changed to an ocean. A Rakshasa stepped in. Indeed, he is one of the 8 gods. But who? Maybe you knows very well. That's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Sure Recaps for more epic manhwa recaps. See you in the next part. You're watching Sure Recaps. Signing off.